skin for your skin, sin for your sin, eyes for your eyes, lips for your lips, skin for your skin, sin for your sin. Feel it down, 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 down. Think about it later. Feel it down, 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 down. Think about it later. Feel it down, 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 down. Think about it later. Feel it down, 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 down. Think about it later. All I ever wanna be is eyes for your eyes, lips for your lips, skin for your skin, sin for your sin.
Now anyone can learn. The Magnus Trainer app is packed with fun mini-games and interactive training content. Playable anytime, anywhere. Get the Magnus Trainer, available in the App Store and Google Play.
If you're a chess player, you have plenty of opportunities to challenge and play online against the top players participating in the Chessable Masters Super Tournament. Don't miss the opportunity to learn from the best. Check out the Chess24 shows area and tune in for banter blitzes with the likes of Magnus Carlsen, Fabiano Caruana, Alexander Krischuk, and Pentala Harikrishna. Go premium at Chess24 to challenge them and gain full access to the world's most entertaining chess platform.
Welcome, Magnus. Enjoying the action?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's been pretty... Well, there's been significant action. Haven't seen anything close to the last of it.
GF played, and Taimur, he has 3 seconds, but he has been doing this his entire life. Yeah.
Knight G3, he's gone for it.
Yeah, baby. What a move.
Yeah, no, it really is very, very nice to see him back at this opening.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of what happens in the game, this is awesome.
Truly.
After queen d1, which is a mistake, now we have discovered e6 was a very strong move for Nepomnia. She opens up the diagonal of the queen and at the same time shuts out the d5 bishop from the defense. Black has to play rook e7 to protect the pawn and the 7th rank, but now the queen comes from the f5, queen f2, threatening rook f7, and it's curtains. So the position is collapsing right now here. Black has to resign. What happened in the game shows why e6 was so powerful, but that led me to the conclusion that queen d1 is a mistake because it allows e6, so the correct move for black. As sad as the position is, rook e6 perhaps could still try to hold. I do think that white has an advantage, quite a big advantage possibly, but at least it's not an immediate resignation. Black still has a fighting chance in the game. So stopping the pawn from being pushed to e6 was crucial for black, and as the arrow shows, that Peter is really good at drawing arrows. The a-passed pawn could give some kind of a counterplay for black in case white doesn't play the most precise, the most forceful move. So good learning moment for us that the pawn on e5 had to be stopped. Once it landed on e6, the game was over for the world number 2, Fabiano Caruana.
It's time to take control of your journey towards chess mastery. Magnus Carlsen introduces Chessable, the definitive solution for studying chess. Move Trainer uses the science of spaced repetition to identify your strengths and eliminate your weaknesses. There's no need to set up a board, remember which page you're on, or keep track of all the moves you miss. Move Trainer empowers you to go from the opening to the end game with confidence. It's a seamless, effective, and fun way to study chess. Choose from one of the largest online chess libraries in the world, with hundreds of titles ranging from classic books through to our exclusive Chessable courses, including over 100 free courses. Get expert insights from International Master John Bartholomew, Grandmaster Sam Shankland, International Master Christoph Silecki, Grandmaster Simon Williams, World Champion Magnus Carlsen, and hundreds of other instructors. Get started now and join our growing community of over 100,000 chess enthusiasts at chessable.com. Chessable, take control of your journey towards chess mastery.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Chessable Masters. As we are in the business end of things in the quarterfinals, the preliminaries have been played, and 4 participants have sadly made their exit. I'm your host, Yasser Seirawan, and along with 2 other wonderful presenters, Anna Rudolf is taking care of all of our social media platforms, and Chess24's very own analyst extraordinaire, Peter Svidler, is with us. A big welcome to you both, and hello, Anna.
Hello, Yasser, and hello, everybody tuning in on Twitch, YouTube, and Chess24. Welcome, everybody, to the first bit of the quarterfinals. As Yasser said, we unfortunately had to say farewell to 4 players, but the remainder of the field is stellar too. I can't wait to cover today's action, and I'll be monitoring all 3 chats on Twitch, on YouTube, and Chess24, as well as our hashtag on Twitter, hashtag StudyChess. Make sure to use it to get in touch with us, and I'll later on show you the question of the day. But on that note, I must say, it's a very hot day in Ireland. How are you feeling about these hot days, Peter, in Russia too?
Yeah, I'm literally melting here. It's been a challenging day already. I had to go outside for 10 minutes to pick up a book for one of my kids, and I regretted it instantly. He can go without books from now on.
I must say, both of you are heroes since you are wearing a proper jacket suit. I'm just here like, this is summer, and I'm allowed to look like it's summer.
We may want to join you, Anna. I'm telling you, it is very, very hot here in Holland as well. We're in the 30s, what might even be called tropical weather over here. We're melting. If the suit jacket does come off, I'm apologizing in advance. As I said, we're in the quarterfinals. The 4 players who have exited the tournament each left with $4,000. So it wasn't altogether bad. It's $150,000 in this, the 3rd leg of the Magnus Carlsen $1 million tour. And I've always said, for the good of chess, I should be a millionaire, and this is a way to do it. As you see, the 4 players will be exiting this stage of the competition, the quarterfinals, and they will walk away with $8,000. Nobody wants to walk away with $8,000. They want to stay in the competition. This is the first of 5 days of quarterfinal competition. The idea is that on each day, they'll play 4 rapid games. Actually, that's a little bit untrue. Their goal is to score 2.5 in the rapid games. If they do that in the first 3 games, the 4th game is not needed. They'll do that for 3 days. And the idea is you need to win 2 of the 3 days. If after 4 rapid games, the match is tied 2-2, we play a pair of blitz games, 5 minutes and 3 minutes. And if the match remains tied, we'll play 1 Armageddon game. For the quarterfinals, the drawing is pretty simple. The number 1 seed in one group plays the number 4 seed from the other group. The players who are highest seeds have the right to choose the colors in both the first game as well as in any Armageddon games that may be played. So it was very good for those people who played very well in the preliminaries to be high seeds. And as we get prepared for this, again, the quarterfinals, keep in mind 4 players will be playing today. They pair off against each other, and these are knockout matches. Tomorrow, another pair of players will join. But at this point, I would like to turn it over to Peter to introduce the knockout quarterfinals. Peter, what do you think of our pairings?
Yeah, we have 2 very intriguing matches today. The first sets of the match between Magnus and Fabi, who are obviously 2 players who know each other quite well, having played a World Championship match against each other in 2018. And they've played a number of very interesting encounters since, of course. And the all-Russian quarterfinal of Artemiev versus Nepomniachtchi, 2 players of, I think, contrasting styles, but both of them very, very strong, very efficient online players as well, good online pedigree, and both of those could become quite explosive. I think if we talk about the Carlsen Caruana match, which even for me as a Russian, I do feel like I'm probably looking forward to that one more. But that's, I think, influenced quite a lot by their recent clutch chess final. Because generally games between world's number 1 and 2, they do tend to be on the dry side. But in the clutch finals, it seemed as if they made some kind of an unspoken agreement to not play boring openings. and there was a tremendous amount of bloodshed. Pretty much every single game was immensely exciting, and the drama and the way the match ended were really absolutely fantastic to watch. So if we get to see something along those lines, it will really be a treat for any chess lover.
A match for the ages, to be sure. And I did actually call those clutch matches, and boy, you are absolutely right, Peter. It was a drama for the ages, which begs the question, in the chess fantasy, how are we all doing? Anna?
I'm afraid we are not doing very well, but this is a good reminder for our viewers that we have a new fantasy bracket for today. So in order to participate in our fantasy chess contest, you need to fill out the bracket before today's first game begins. Head over to Chess24 if you want to have a chance at winning our Apple iPad or Amazon Fire HD 10. I'm hoping that Peter and I will do better for the rest of the event, because what you see in the standings among our staff, I'm lost with 4 points and Peter has 6 points so far.
Yeah, Group B was not kind to me and Anna. We just got, I think, pretty much all we could have gotten wrong in Group B, and that resulted in a complete blowout. But I am very happy for the man on the horse who is leading the FFL fantasy competition.
Shout out to Mr. Dodgy, the man on the horse. And also on that note, we do have a segment on what have the players been up to on their free day, starting with the winner of Group B, Anish Giri. He posted this on his Instagram, a lovely family portrait from the beach. Apparently it was 29 degrees Celsius in The Hague, the beach of Scheveningen. The opening, Scheveningen, is named after a beach in the Netherlands, which was their place of visit, I believe. And the next image is also from Anish's Instagram, his Instagram story of how he's preparing for his match that's going to be tomorrow against Alexander Grishuk. If we could move on to the next slide. This is Anish's Instagram story, preparing for the match against the three-time world bliss champion Alexander Grishuk with his second, Daniel Giri, 3.5 years old. Moving on to the next slide, we have Daniel Dubov, who unfortunately is not competing with us anymore. He sadly had to say goodbye from Group A, but he did play a banter blitz session yesterday. If we could bring up that tweet from Chessable, he played against Chess24 Premier members yesterday and also solved checkmate on Chessable, which will be a video coming up shortly for you, dear viewers. Another player, stellar player that had a banter blitz session yesterday is Ding Liren. He played on Chess24 as well as on a Chinese platform where Grandmaster Li Chao was covering his games with over 60,000 viewers tuning in to the session of Ding Liren in China. Thank you so much, ILN, for the tweet. The next one is from Hari Krishna, who sadly also had to say goodbye to this event, but he is very active on Chessable and he is practicing with the Chessable course, which is based on this event. So if you didn't know, there's a free course on Chessable about this event, and the tactic you see on the board was one of the missed moments of the event. Hari Krishna versus Carlsen. Try to solve the tactics if you did not see it in our coverage. And our final one from yesterday's free day is, of course, Magnus Carlsen, who said it's goddamn difficult to update his status constantly. And I believe that does not refer to his world #1 spot, nor the world champion's title, but his fantasy chess ranking. Very important, absolutely.
Fantasy football, but it is
fantasy. Fantasy football. Did I say fantasy chess? I'm too focused on our fantasy chess, but fantasy football. The world champion is doing once again very well in fantasy football.
Thank you for that, Anna. And seriously, on that note, where the Chess24 Premier members get a chance to play banner chess with our great players, there's also a possibility of how they can become Premier members through our question of the day. What is today's question of the day?
If we bring up our slide of the question of the day, it is, what makes chess such a rich pastime and sport? Use the hashtag #StudyChess on Twitter if you would like to win the course of the day, which we will announce later on. But this is the question. Answer on Twitter by using the hashtag #StudyChess. And our previous winner was that tweet from the previous day. It was Flopsy tweeting, I would love to have Paul Borta as my coach because his own dubious opinion of his prep would justify my belief that the proper reply to 1d4 is D King's Indian, at which point we can just move on to Hearthstone and poker advice. I think this tweet was especially a candidate since Peter said on the broadcast, I'm sure this tweet will not win.
Nice. I love it.
This is all a conspiracy to make me feel bad about every single opinion I express.
Never, Peter. We so appreciate your opinion.
Nice. I like it a lot. I tell you, those Premier memberships, I think we should be far more generous in terms of giving them out, because really there's been some marvelous tweets. And one in particular I liked way back, I think it was like day 1 or 2 of the preliminaries, and it was somebody who made a reference to Hulk. And when I grew up as a teen, I absolutely loved the Marvel comic books, and certainly Hulk was one of my favorites. Peter, did you ever get into any of the Marvel comic books?
Not a lot. This definitely wasn't, a part of me growing up because my childhood still, I still lived in the Soviet Union then, and there wasn't a lot of cultural exchange in particular. Like, I'm sure some people had access to comics, but not the general population. I have started at some point trying to educate myself on that topic. Like, I have and then was very happy to pass on to my kids, but not not a huge collection, and I don't consider myself a specialist.
Oh, pity. My favorite, of course, was the Silver Surfer, the man with the cosmic energy. And I'll tell you what, challenge to our audience, you come up with a tweet that connects Silver Surfer, the Chessable Masters, and Chess24 in a tweet. I'll make sure you get a premier member to Chess24. Also,
Wow, a special Yasser prize.
yes, exactly. I'll make sure it happens. And talking about special prizes, back to you, Anna, for social media prizes.
Thank you, Yasser. Of course, since we have already mentioned the updates from the free day, what we will now focus on is what's going to happen today. And the big news is that we have Carlsen versus Caruana again. About this match, starting with Magnus Carlsen's tweet from before the event when he said, "I found the clutch," referring to the event in St. Louis, but who is the most chessable? This was his tweet about the event. Since then, he won Group A and will now face Caruana, who tweeted about the pairings, simply the word rematch, exclamation mark, hashtag study chess. I tweeted today about this match, of course, because I had the pleasure of commentating on the World Chess Championship match in 2018 with the one and only Judith Polgar in London. And I also want to add to this picture that the face mask that we are holding was from a Chessable event. Chessable hosted a Blitz tournament in London on one of the free days, and all the participants of the Blitz event had to wear either a Carlsen or Caruana face mask. Imagine playing against someone who looks like Caruana, who looks like Carlsen. You had to pick the one that you were rooting for in London. And our final post is once again from the world champion, preparing for today's game against Fabiano, today's mini match with his second Peter Heine at a different sport. Before we discuss Magnus's basketball skills, I think we could sum up the World Championship match and clutch chess, since these were the two main matches that Magnus
Action there left Peter exposed to an open shot. Very nicely done. Very nicely done, Magnus. All right. Seriously, this is going to be a very, very exciting quarterfinals. How, Peter, Magnus in 2018, the World Championship match, 12 draws, as we all know, credited Fabiano as improving a great deal in his rapid chess skills and said that the clutch chess match could go either way. What do you see as the determinant factors for this match today?
I think as often when two players of closely matched players play against each other, I think form on the day is often the deciding factor. Magnus does, I believe, start as a favorite pretty much whoever he plays if he's playing well, but as both of us have already spoken of earlier, brilliantly in it, he went one down more than once, I think, in the match, and struck back almost immediately. They did seem to be just trading blows throughout the 12 game contest, resulting at the very end by Fabio winning game 11 and then Magnus winning game 12 on demand to win by one measly point in the end. But I don't really expect neither of these two guys to do anything outlandish. But even within their normal opening repertoire, there are more solid things and less solid things. And in that clutch final, they were consistently aiming for the most fighting, the most unbalanced positions they could in a very, very unbalanced situation. So if they continue like that, I think all bets are off.
Yeah, a treat indeed is in store for us as number 1 and number 2 in the classical ratings prepare to do battle. And let's take a retrospective a little bit on that World Championship match in 2018. Your thoughts, please.
I think I saw it way. Carlsen had decisive advantage in game 1, time pressure and everything he could ask for. But Fabiano fought hard, sweat blood, dodged the bullet. He was quick to recover and out-prep Meg. Game 6. You believe in fortresses? You believe in fortresses. 68 bishop h4. 6 more draws. They had $1 million at stake. The world is one way to remember. The mate in 36 that was made by Fabiano, and later on, after 12 thrilling draws, we had a rapid tiebreak. Today's event is in rapid chess. So the question then again, is Magnus Carlsen better at rapid than Fabiano if we compare their skills in classical chess and rapid? What do you think, Yasser? This time control, how does it suit Fabiano?
I think he has made a lot of great adjustments. In fact, I see Fabi literally up until the year 2018 is really concentrating on his classical chess skills, wanting to become the best chess player that he could be. And let's face it, he fought his way to the World Championship match. He went up against Magnus Carlsen, the highest rated player in the world. As you pointed out, he missed the mate in 36. I inadvertently thought it was mate in 32. Miscounting, terrible. But no, seriously, that was a fantastic match. And the outcome in the tiebreaker was just so one-sided that it kind of snapped at Fabi. And he said, okay, I understand now. My challenge is really a lot greater than I thought. I now realize that I really have to improve myself in rapid chess. And what he did in the clutch chess match was just amazing. I don't think he could have done that 2 years ago. I don't think he could have done it a year ago. So he's done some really, really extra special work. The top players have recognized that rapid and blitz world championships are titles that they can aspire to try to win. And so you're seeing a lot of the top players really being focused in their rapid and blitz skills. And now, hey, online chess, it's moved online. You're not going to play classical chess online. So you better be preparing your blitz and rapid skills. And Peter, just your thought on that as well. Do you think the players are getting better? Let's just put it like that in blitz and rapid chess.
I think so, and I think it's really not a very stunning development because the world rapid and blitz has grown in stature, I think, consistently over the years. It's now very much part of the calendar for every top player. I think most players try to be there. Most players feel like it's sort of absolutely the correct way to round off the year. Those 5 days, and generally a lot more top level practice that is available to players, which I think is how people improve. Even at that level, without competitive practice, playing these formats for high stakes against really top level opposition is how you get better. And I think there has already been a shift in that direction. And now with the chess calendar moving exclusively online pretty much for obvious reasons, people are getting even more practice in.
Exactly. And sorry to interrupt you, Peter, but in somebody's famous words, they're off.
And they're off, exactly. Yeah. And We'll start, I guess, with the Carlsen Caruana match, where they are very rapidly moving along in the line, which kind of entered the public consciousness. I would say, I want to say maybe 5 to 7 years ago. No, that's a bit long. Maybe 5 years. 7 is a bit too much. At some point, people started playing this move order: d4, knight of 6, c4, e6, knight of 3, d5, knight c3, a6. This move order, and also just simply knight c3, a6 on move 3, too ambitious. But this position definitely, at first glance, it looks extremely strange. But attempts to refute it outright, I think, have generally failed.
Right.
And these days, most players with the white pieces do the kind of a thing that Magnus is doing in this game, for instance. Namely, they play some kind of a Carlsbad, saying that, yes, you will have the Carlsbad. They are somewhat better for white, in particular if the bishop on a6 cannot be traded, neither for the light square bishop nor the knight on f3. So they now have, a very quiet-looking position, seemingly, but definitely the type of position that Magnus enjoys playing, I would say.
And before we continue with the analysis, I just would like to take the word for a quick moment to reassure everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch and Chess24 that we are aware of the issue with the stream, but we are working on fixing it. Unfortunately, there's an internet connection problem for where the production is coming from, so it might be dropping frames. We are working on it and we're going to solve it. Please be patient and enjoy the games in the meantime. Back to you, Yasser and Peter.
Well, thank you for that, Anna. Yes, the challenges of what Chess24 and Chessable are trying to overcome are immense. And one of the things I'm really impressed with, Peter, you could probably even talk to more about that than I could, is the number of languages that you can choose from. Chess24 has it, I believe, in as many as 10 languages, a chance to know. And shout out to Chess24 for doing that. I just think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's been steadily growing, and it's very pleasant to watch how widely it is now covering all the major events. And in this position, you probably played infinitely more Carlsbads than I have over the course of our respective careers. I'm very happy about the sequence that happened on the board, even though we didn't really get to discuss that before it appeared on the board. I'm a little bit surprised Black didn't play a5. But
Absolutely.
I wanted to say I fully expect Magnus to reply to a5 with queen a3, with the intention, I'm pretty sure. Anyway. And Fabi refused this queen trade by playing queen c7.
Yeah, this you were talking about the a7, a6 move on move 3. That goes way, way, way back. And for some reason, I'm really associating that move more with Alekhine. I don't even know why. I probably saw one of his games. The idea of knight f6 and a6 and bishop e6 especially, I'm associating with Magnus Carlsen, of all people. So I just thought it was a kind of an intriguing psychological ploy by psychology there in the choices. Also, I completely concur with you, Peter, that the move a6, a5 to slow down or stop the move b2, b4 is a move that I would have expected Fabi to have played. The fact that he didn't and allowed b2, b4 is a bit mystifying to begin with. And then the fact that, well, Magnus just said, b4 is not going away. I'll go queen a3 and rook fc1. So it's kind of funny, but in some ways, the bishop on e6 is in the way. It's developed, and that's a good thing, but it's not like it's on an effective square. And in fact, the rook on e8, kind of like there's a traffic jam going on in Black's position. And I'm sure Black would like to trade a few pieces to simplify his challenges.
Absolutely, and I think knight b6 is generally played not with the intention of playing knight b6 c4, which is a structure change which generally I believe favors white greatly,
Right.
but with the intention of bringing it over to d6, which is a very good square, I think, for that knight in general. It covers some important squares, and also very, very relevantly for these structures, it creates at least the idea of playing bishop b6 f5, because I think black generally would very much like to trade that bishop on e6 for the bishop on d3. But now after knight b6 has been played, Magnus does play b2 before. And that type of play feels to me like it might be a little bit too slow. If you imagine black playing knight c8 here, b5, let's say a, b, a, b, knight d6, it feels to me that the pawn on c6 might be under sort of more pressure than you are very comfortable with here with black.
Absolutely.
It does feel like
concerned to have a glaring weakness like that on c6. Unfairly, we've ignored the other quarterfinal match. Peter, shall we have a look-see?
Sure. This one is a Spanish, but sort of true to form. Artemiev continues playing the slightly offbeat Spanishes. He played this in the prelims. I think he won a reasonably nice game against Pentala Harikrishna. I think that game went as they got to the same position, but via a slightly different move order. Against Hari, he played, I think, a6, d6, which we were told is called the deferred Steinitz. But today he goes g6, which is a very old line, which kind of fell out of fashion, but I think is kind of regaining popularity right now.
Right.
It's returning to top level chess.
It's always tough to give the opening some names, but this move in particular, g7, g6, I really do think I'm on solid ground by referring that to associate that move with him from his book, 200 Best Games by Vasil Smyslov, which I think, by the way, is an amazing book. I don't know if you ever read it, Peter, or if it made an influence on you, but for me, Smyslov, again, one of those really under
Smyslov, and I have recently mainly I'm mentioning this because I do want to say that the book is quite nice. I've written a foreword for a book which I think is now going through pre-publishing. It's not out yet, but it will be out hopefully sometime this year by a Russian author who is now living in Southeast Asia, covering both his chess influence and his life, and it should be a very interesting addition to the corpus of books on Smyslov. But yeah, g6 was an early favorite of his, and the game continued c3, a6, bishop a4, d6, d4, bishop d7, castles, bishop g7. They have actually gotten to this position in the game, Harikrishna Artemiev, and I think Harikrishna played rook e1. Jan goes with h3, knight f6, rook e1, castles, knight bd2, rook e8. And here Jan decides to not necessarily simplify, but sort of clarify the situation in the center by playing d5 and then bishop c2. I very much like Artemiev's response here. Black generally sort of struggles finding work for that bishop on g7. And if you just trade it for the bishop on c1, that this idea exists. If white does this with the knight still on d2, very often black will be extremely happy to play bishop h6 and just trade those bishops off, leaving themselves with a very nice bishop on d7, which is not restricted by their own pawn structure. And the position we have on the board right now looks like this. And queen d8, b8 is also a very nice sort of throwback to some Rubinstein games. I think Akiba Rubinstein was probably the first major player who has shown that in these types of structures, queen d8, b8 with the intention of putting it on a7 and then perhaps on c5 is the way to activate that queen without really committing to, let's say, some move like c6 or c5.
fascinating position that we will be back with, but we do need to interrupt, unfortunately, our stream in order to fix the lag issue. So we need about 30 seconds to reset the stream. Please don't go anywhere. We will be back with a much better broadcast quality. Apologies once again for the issue, but it's a connection problem in the area where our production comes from in Greece. So it's out of our control, but we are working on the issue and we will now reset the stream. So please stay with us a 30
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our broadcast. I apologize for the interruption with the lag, but we needed to recalibrate it, and hopefully everything will go swimmingly well. Of course, we are in the Chessable Masters. We are in what we would call the business stage of things. As the prelims are over and the quarterfinals have begun, we're in day one. And the players will be playing sets of games for each day, and they need to win 2 out of 3 days. There'll be 5 days in total as the matches are staggered over those first 4 days. Peter, pick it up for us before we went on our unscheduled break.
Yeah, there's been a development in the Nepomniachtchi Artemiev game, which I've been very surprised by 2 decisions in a row there. And I wanted to ask for your guidance, Yaz. We left it somewhere around here after b3, queen a7. Bishop d3, queen c5 is very understandable. Jan played a3, Black played c6 by Vladislav. And in this position, Jan took the decision to take on c6, which is already a little bit surprising to me. I don't quite know why he needed to do it this quickly. But I mean, shocked, I tell you, is probably a little bit of an overreaction, but it did surprise me that Artemiev chose to take with the pawn here. I would have thought, now that the knight on e7 suddenly is being gifted this quite nice square on c6, I would have been very interested in that option, much more than I would be in the idea of taking with the b pawn. In particular, if the follow-up is, as they have played, queen d2, and then Black decided not even to fight against the push of b3 before and played bishop e6.
Seriously, stunning developments for me too. Probably d5 takes c6 would have been maybe my third choice. In principle, when I look at the pawn on d5 and the pawn on e4, and I look at that knight on e7, I go, oh, I'm a hero. Look what I'm doing. I'm pressing my opponent and keeping him cramped. Taking on c6 and allowing the knight new life on the c6 square. No, I'm not a big fan of that. And then the surprising recapture with the b pawn, maybe not so bad after all. The b pawn, there is a weakness, potential weakness on the b file for white that he better alleviate with the move b2, b4, which he's done, by the way. Overall, I think that Black will be satisfied. This slightly backward d6 pawn can very easily be defended. Sometimes even the knight on f6 to e8 actually voluntarily drops back. Very, very hard to attack the d6 pawn. I'm not exactly sure what Nepo was thinking in terms of where is he going to get his advantage. Maybe he's banking on c4, c5 coming.
I think so. Yeah, I was waiting for you to mention that, because I think that will be the major worry for Black here. Bishop f1, queen c7, queen c3 played in the meantime. You do constantly have to watch for c4, c5 now, because this often leads to some very uncomfortable situations for Black. I'm wondering if he's actually intending to do something like c5, b5, knight d7, just, or maybe not knight d7, but actually knight c8 drops a rook, so that's not very comfortable. But place one of his knights on b6 and say, this is a rock-solid position. The bishop on f1 is very passive, and it's actually quite difficult to activate it. And I'm not that worried about this protected passer on b5. But it's a very, how do you say?
Concrete approach, yeah?
a very committal decision. Yeah, like
Okay.
you're not coming back from that. This is the
No.
structure you've given your opponent, and your knights are kind of uniquely poorly placed to, for instance, fight for the d4 square, because this guy would have liked to have the c6 square available to him, but that's not going to happen. So I guess black could maybe try for something like this: knight d7 f8. Let me do this again. Knight d7 f8 e6 d4. But that is a 4-move maneuver, and white probably will have something to say about it.
Uniquely poorly placed. Obviously, you're not familiar with my games either, Peter. Uniquely poorly. I liked your approach, though. I liked knight d7 immediately. I saw knight d7 as being one of those fashionable prophylactic moves that keep your options open. Yes, c5 is on tap potentially. Yes, knight f8 to e6 to d4 is a maneuver you might consider, especially with the move f7, f6 as a part of that. So I like the flexibility of knight d7 for all of the reasons that you were expressing.
Rook a1 I also quite like, keeping sort of as many pieces on the board as possible and hinting that queen d2 might be an awkward move to face, although black does have knight c8 as a reply to that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was wondering about knight g5, but I suspect black is not that unhappy about having to play knight f8 in this position. So,
or even knight, yeah. All right, at least we had to look in on this game, as we'll go back to the marquee matchup between the number 2. What's transpired, Peter?
Well, this is the structure we were describing earlier, but hang on a second. What just happened here?
What just happened?
How is queen b7? How is queen b7 not winning material?
Queen a3, perhaps.
Yeah, either queen a3 or maybe no. I was also wondering about knight cb6, and if you take on c6, maybe I can do this and win some material.
Okay, that is.
But yeah, I had to cut myself off at the pass here because after knight d7, like at first glance, queen b7 appears to be a very dangerous move that you have to worry about.
Exactly.
But both knight b6 and also Yasser's move queen a3, they do appear to cover the issues sufficiently. For instance, queen c6, queen c1, queen takes a8. Black does have the move queen takes c3, which not only picks up a full piece but also covers the knight on c8. Yeah, maybe it's not that grim. I particularly wanted to attract attention to Fabi's reply to b4, which I thought was very clever. In this position, he played rook b8, a8, seemingly returning the rook on a starting square, but considering where the white rooks are, this slows down white's progress quite a bit, makes the b4, b5 move, for instance, right now pretty much impossible because of the pin. And that resulted in Magnus going for a5 and b5, using this x-ray to support his pawn break. But black at least got to his setup unscathed, and then some pieces were exchanged on the a6 square. And we are where we are. Yeah, that hasn't been played yet.
Queen b7 indeed on the board? Yeah. Or not yet?
No, knight d7 is, but queen b7 hasn't been played yet. Yeah, I pushed a little bit too far there along the moves I already entered.
Well, sorry, it may be boring to many, but for me, this was a position, or at least the type of position, that I always aspired to when I was white. I really felt good about my winning chances, even though the material has been reduced. I really felt I had control of the game, in the sense that I could tie my opponent to the glaring weakness on the c6 square. And I really like this move knight e2 by Magnus as well, because you had mentioned, and I thought it was a very nice comment you were mentioning, Peter, bringing the knight to d6, that the knight on the d6 square hits a lot of squares, potentially bishop f5, the c4 square, the e4 square. In a kind of very strange way, knight coming to d3 does the same thing, but in a reversed order. And I can
absolutely,
yeah, that for me, Magnus's play is, how do you say, really clear and understandable, you want to play knight f4 so that you can go knight to d3 and knight to e5. And basically, you just gang up and you hit that c6 pawn with all your might. And, if it falls off the board, then it's strategically winning. And if it doesn't fall off the board, black, as you can see right now, the rook is on b6, kind of ties his pieces up towards its defense. The knight will go to e7. And before you know it, white is the one dictating the action. And that move, queen a5, is a kind of an indication that not all is that well with black's position.
Not at all, yeah. And
yeah.
I wanted to also additionally point out that in after knight e2, rook b8 may have been already sort of a mathematically only move, because if you play something like queen d6, now queen b7 probably does win the c6 pawn on the spot. So rook b8 more or less forced, rook b6 pretty much also forced. You never want to play knight a7. And now after queen a5, I think the point of queen a5 is black would very much like to play knight d6. But now we can use the fact that the rook on b6 is slightly unprotected,
right,
and play knight e5, which could honestly just result in the complete collapse of the black setup, because the pawn is hanging. Knight d7, queen takes b6 is also a large threat, and Fabiano is reduced to playing queen d6 instead.
Right.
And now knight f4, and yeah, that knight on c8 is still looking for some kind of green pastures here. It's not looking all that great, I have to say.
Well, exactly. And again, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I personally really found white's position a lot of fun. I mean, as Jan Timman would say, the sunny side of the torture. And one of the most difficult, I think, skills that that really challenge not just grandmasters, but every type of player, is those positions where a player is defending passively. I mean, the position's not terrible or anything like that. It's just that you don't have a lot of fun. You don't have a lot of counterplay. And I think for a lot of players, it's really easy to collapse when just being challenged by nagging moves constantly. Very hard to play, to defend difficult positions without counterplay. These players, number one and number two in the world, they're skilled at even doing that, but it's not the way you want to play. I think that Fabi, at this exact moment, will probably say he's okay, but maybe
I'm not even sure about that, to be honest. I think that particular constellation of pieces doesn't inspire a great deal of knowledge. He had played knight c8, e7 just now. After knight e5,
right.
Once again, I suspect he is just intending to play something like rook b8 and hope that nothing bad happens to his position tactically.
Nothing drops, huh?
But I would need to stare at this for a bit before I would be prepared to say that that assessment is correct. Like, I can play queen a7 here, for instance, and if you just blithely take on e5 after de, my queen is attacking all kinds of things, and maybe after queen b4 you're still alive somehow miraculously, but it really does look very, very dodgy.
Very dodgy, for
yeah.
sure.
So yeah, this is a bit of a scary position, to be honest. So I'm very interested to see what transpires. And in terms of like the narrative I was describing earlier, where in the clutch finals they were seemingly purposefully playing the sharpest lines possible, it hasn't happened in this game. I think this is these days considered to be a solid but non-explosive way to play the opening for black. But I think Magnus will be very happy with the outcome of, I mean, it's move 31. It's hard to call this the outcome of the opening, but in some ways, when you talk about Carlsbad's, this position kind of does feel like an outcome of the opening.
Yes, yes, very much so. One of the things, actually, Peter, that really is surprising for me is in this particular position, this still exists. I haven't seen a variation where you can do it yet, a back rank checkmate. I mean, you would think after 31 moves, black would have gotten into h7, h6, Luft going and defending g5. White has gotten in h3, so there is still some tactical potential tactical issues of a back rank that could be disconcerting.
Absolutely. I think it's a very enjoyable position for Magnus. It doesn't mean that he will necessarily win it, but it's very pleasant to look at. And he goes knight takes e6, which is very interesting because it really isn't an obvious choice, but I guess he found some tactical justification for it. Perhaps if you take with the queen, maybe after knight e5, your position does just collapse tactically. And that means that fe6, and Fabi played fe6 more or less instantaneously, which does sort of seem to indicate that they both came to the same conclusion that this needed to be done. And it's a kind of a how would you call it? Why transforming one type of an advantage into a different type? Now the black king is not entirely safe. You can definitely entertain some ideas of playing g3, h4, and putting the bishop on h3, where it will look, quizzically at the pawn on e6, and black will have to think about that constantly every move. It's not an obvious decision by any means, but it's if fe6 is forced, which does appear to be the case, then I can definitely understand why Magnus became interested by this.
Transforming one advantage into another. Peter, let me just interrupt you and take us over to our social media as Anna will tell us what's going on.
Thank you so much, Yasser, and thanks to everybody tuning in on Twitch. You monitoring those 3 chats, and the hype is real. But also a reminder to you that we do have a question of the day. If we could bring up once again our slide showing the viewers today's question, which is, what makes chess such a rich pastime and sport? And here are some of the responses we have received so far. One being from Jan Wolf, legacy makes chess a rich game. We talk about Tal, Fischer, Kasparov, etc., and the legacy of their play. But we neophytes can talk about Jan, Paige, Justin, Jordan. I hand the game to my kids, and we work to master the game together, and they to their kids. #study chess. That's a beautiful tweet, Jan. Thank you so much. Another response to the same question is from Naiko Ronok. Chess has not only broadened my mind on the board, but in everyday life too. It has changed how I approach a problem and view the world. It's much, much more than just a game. It's a way of life. I think I heard that sentence, that chess is life. Thank you for your tweet, Naik. And our final tweet from this segment is from Leon Watson. Thank you, Leon, for the tweet and for all the amazing news articles as well. It's way too hot to do anything other than watch Magnus versus Fabi right now on Chess24. And it is indeed a really hot day for everybody, including the players. Magnus Carlsen is not wearing his jacket. He's in Denmark in a beach house. And I believe Fabiano is at home in St. Louis. But a very hot day for heated up action over the board. So back to Yasser and Peter to cover what's going on in the position right now between Nepomniachtchi and Artemiev.
Yeah, I just wanted to do a quick update on this because that position, I think, solidified very much in White's advantage. Artemiev did play for the plan I described of c5, b5, and then placing a very nice, seemingly blockading knight on the b6 square. But White has complete control over the d-file. The d6 pawn is under a lot of pressure. There's a very beautiful knight on e3 supporting the pawn on c4 and also kind of glancing in those directions. And Jan just opened direct hostilities with g4, g5. And it does feel to me like this has a, very good chances of succeeding. The point being, after f takes g5, we just go back to f3, creating a threat of knight g5, but also a threat of knight takes e5 because of the pin along the d-file. This looks very dangerous for black. I have so far failed to refute queen takes e4, but if you have to play gf king takes f6, my guess is White is just not that upset about this. Even just playing knight f3 quietly and continuing with reasonably quiet moves. But Artemiev disagrees and goes f takes g5. That's quite interesting to me.
Well, definitely heating up there. When Anna, you mentioned Chess's life, I think about Victor Korchnoy's chess biography book, Chess's Life, and indeed, the games are definitely heating up. By the way, the more I look at it, you had mentioned in the game of Magnus and Fabi, Peter, an idea of playing G2, G3, and H3, H4, and bringing the bishop to H3 so you could put a lot of pressure on in E6. I just took a glance at that position going on over there, and I saw bishop on G4, and I said, "Uh-oh!" I mean, that's cold. That looks, sorry, but to my eyes, Fabi's in huge trouble now.
Yeah, I think he might just be lost. And interestingly, Magnus went sort of exactly for the position we were talking about, but with a bit of a twist. I was suggesting 95 here, but with that same idea of rook b8, queen a7, if you remember, we were discussing this. And Magnus went for exactly the same line, but with the inclusion of knight e6, fe6. I don't know why he felt it was so important to include it, but I did, after Magnus played it, because that obviously is a stamp of approval, I did find how this is refuted. I kind of cut it off there, saying maybe black is surviving. Black actually doesn't survive, because after queen d7, king f7, what I missed originally was rook the fact that rook c6, because of the pin on the 7th rank, just picks up everything.
Yeah.
Because of that, Fabi was forced to go back to d8, and now bishop e2 and bishop g4. And Magnus is just sort of in full collection mode here.
Oh, no question about it. And again, black structure is like one of those leaky bucket kind of structures where, you know, there's just nothing redeeming in black's. You know, the pawn is on c4 and you lose the e6 pawn. Maybe you can make some kind of claims, but it just feels like the structure is about to be harvested. And we just did see the move knight g6, and okay, you can either start with rook c6 and rook e6 or f4 and just say to black, keep all the weaknesses on your side of the table, please.
Speaking of leaky structures, I believe we do have a piece sacrifice in the game between Nepomniachtchi and Artemyev.
Whoa, that's a very exciting development. I was arguing for the move knight f3 in that position after fg5, but Jan says no, my position is good enough to just start directly giving mate to the king on g7, gf king to knight takes f5, and I think it's very easy to believe this to be this might work because of just, you know, there's a whole bunch of pieces on the queen side which will not be participating in the defense of His Majesty at all. Yeah, that will be a very large issue here for Artemyev. I don't quite see exactly where the mate is. I'll be honest with you. I haven't figured out how to win, for instance, after something like king, I don't know, g8 or h8. Maybe just knight takes d6 is the plan. If king g6, I suspect Jan is intending to play queen h3, but even here, so far after queen takes e4, I don't see how we win by force. But it looks very, very attractive. And also, Jan is playing what I very much like to see in this game as a friend of Jan's. I do know him a lot better than I know Vladislav, and I don't know if I'm extremely biased, but I definitely have a lot more personal history with Jan than I do with his younger opponent. I like to see Jan actually spend time on moves, is what I wanted to say. I feel like when he is not, you know, on 16.5 minutes by move 38, this is when he's generally playing his best. And it seems to me like he's playing a measured game, taking time on decisions when time needs to be taken on decisions. If he went for this sacrifice, my first instinct is to trust him on this because he had other options. None of this was forced. Artemyev is also down to 44 seconds, which I think is quite unusual for him. I think he normally is a very quick player.
King g8, queen g3,
and queen takes e4 played.
On the board, queen takes it. They're, you know, I've always kind of thought as Nepo as some kind of, you know, high-speed performance car, like almost Ferrari like. He makes his decisions very, very quickly, almost like, again, with blazing speed. And sometimes you almost want to say to him, Jan, slow down, just tap the brakes, go around the curve a little bit slowly, you know, don't crash out of position. But when he's in his gear, in his top gear, he's a threat to anybody in the world.
Absolutely, yeah. So far, the only thing I found that I like for white, sort of unreservedly, might end up being a draw in the end. You could just take on d6 here and take again. This creates a lot of threats to the black king, and I think black probably will be obliged to go for this endgame. Check on a1, check on f4, and rook takes b6. But black does have rook c1 in this position. And my suspicion is this might actually hold.
Wow.
For Artemiev. So I'm very interested in looking for something that is more. I would like, if this were my position with white right now, in particular when I have like 4 minutes against 58 seconds, and we really are in no hurry whatsoever here if we're playing white.
Does it make a difference if I take twice with the rook on d6? And
I was wondering about that, but I think because d7 is not hanging, I think black still has the same defensive resource, right?
So that
it's a very relevant question, because not allowing black to take twice would be a very attractive proposition, but I don't think it quite works out. Another way to go would be something like rook d3, and just as I was mentioning it, this is what he played. But
rook d3, rook a1 on the board in an instant, Peter.
Yeah,
and
that's exactly what I was worried about.
Yeah.
Until I saw rook a1, I thought rook d3 might just be the absolute winning move here.
Right.
But rook a1 worried me quite a bit, because it seems to me like we will now have to allow a rook trade. And what's even more unfortunate, we're probably going to have to trade the active rook, not the passive one. We will end up with a rook on the first rank, which is not really doing very much. So I'm curious to see if Jan has a kind of a ready-made reply to this.
Well, no, I think I'm taking too many. I feel good about taking liberties with other people's pieces.
Rook f3 here or something.
Yeah, rook g3. I was thinking
rook g3. Rook g3 is even
and you
is
take
even
my
more
rook,
aggressive.
and I go king h2, and I don't know.
Are we actually threatening mate? In particular, if I pin your rook on g3, so that it never gives any checks.
Question: am I actually? Can I construct a mate? And
I think the king probably ends up being reasonably safe around the e6 square here, sadly, for the romantics among us.
That will be very annoying. Yeah, I'm sorry. Again, taking liberties with Jan's pieces, and time is not yet a factor. Well, it kind of is.
Yeah, I think, sadly, rook a1 may have been missed. If Jan doesn't blitz out the reply after rook d3, rook a1, and I should probably be looking at a very, very small window I have on my screen, which shows the players' faces. And Jan is a very, very emotive player. It's a lot of fun to watch him play chess, because he doesn't really hide his feelings almost at all. But I did miss the moment when rook d3, rook a1 had been played, and often you can tell by the way he reacts to the new situation on the board, in the move or not.
Right.
But he's down to a minute now, and that I think is a very large indication that he missed rook a1.
And always he did play rook a1, by the way, but I was looking also at a knight h6 check and hoping that I would get some checks against black's king.
I think we always have that option. I think it's not really very likely that that option will ever be taken away from us. And in the meantime, Magnus did win game one against Fabi. I will just show the final position for now.
Oof.
Total dominance in the center. The entire black structure disappeared. So no real surprise that black resigned here. And yeah, back to our very, very sharp Spanish.
Well, when the rooks were on the board, I thought that knight h6 kind of meant that
And he's
I'd have
played
a
rook a3 here. That's
rook
very
A3.
cute. I don't know what that is. I think it's probably an attempt to give a perpetual.
Right.
I think if you take this rook, I think after knight h6 check, we probably have a perpetual, like king e8, queen g8, king e7, queen g5. And the king actually never reaches the d8 square.
Right.
And we always have the perpetual check here, but we clearly never have any kind of a mating attack here. We don't have enough attackers, simply put.
Well,
And
Vladislav
Artemiev,
said,
yeah.
"Show me."
well, he probably didn't have anything smarter, and they are playing on very, very low time. So for Artemiev to play queen d1, king h2, and say, I have an extra piece. Yes, I don't quite see how my king gets safe, but I will play on because I have an extra piece, is a very difficult decision. I don't think very many people do that. So I think queen takes a3, I think, is a very understandable choice here. And I think it ends up being a draw now.
This is game one in the quarterfinals. So with the black pieces with little time, you really have to have nerves of steel, I want to say.
Yeah, if we to say no to that draw offer would be a very difficult proposition. But very nicely found motive by Jan. On the other hand, I want to check, like, if we don't play rook a3, is this still a draw or no? Probably not, because now we can go king e6, and there is never any queen f5 checks. And after queen g8 check, the king can go to f6 and then to g6, and you might not have that perpetual anymore. Exactly. I think this is why he gave up the rook first, because he needed to make sure that the king cannot really cross over to some kind of g6 squares. And the game probably has been drawn, because in the current position we have on our screens, black has one legal move, and he's not making it. So I assume there's been some kind of a conclusion, because nothing else really makes any sense. Really hoping it's not. Whoa! What?
Oh no! We must have had a disconnect. Oh no!
That would be very, very unfortunate if this is not some kind of a glitch, because it's clearly a position in which white does have the perpetual, but not.
There's only one move for black, so there's no
and
reason.
also king e67 would have been played instead of resigning in this position, if he had a technical capability of making a move. We will seek guidance from our.
Why don't we just take a quick break and get in some commercial sponsor words, so that we ourselves can figure out what happened in this very eventful first round. We'll see you on the other side of this break, everyone.
If you're a chess player, you have plenty of opportunities to challenge and play online against the top players participating in the Chessable Masters Super Tournament. Don't miss the opportunity to learn from the best. Check out the Chess24 shows area and tune in for banter blitzes with the likes of Magnus Carlsen, Fabiano Caruana, Alexander Krischuk, and Pentala Harikrishna. Go premium at Chess24 to challenge them and gain full access to the world's most entertaining chess platform.
Now anyone can learn and improve their chess skills with the world champion, Magnus Carlsen. The Magnus Trainer app is packed with fun mini-games and interactive training content. Playable anytime, anywhere. Get the Magnus Trainer, available in the App Store and Google Play.
time to take control of your journey towards chess mastery. Magnus Carlsen introduces Chessable, the definitive solution for studying chess. Move Trainer uses the science of spaced repetition to identify your strengths and eliminate your weaknesses. There's no need to set up a board, remember which page you're on, or keep track of all the moves you miss. Move Trainer empowers you to go from the opening to the end game with confidence. It's a seamless, effective, and fun way to study chess. Choose from one of the largest online chess libraries in the world, with hundreds of titles ranging from classic books through to our exclusive Chessable courses, including over 100 free courses. Get expert insights from International Master John Bartholomew, Grandmaster Sam Shankland, International Master Christoph Sulecki, Grandmaster Simon Williams, World Champion Magnus Carlsen, and hundreds of other instructors. Get started now and join our growing community of over 100,000 chess enthusiasts at chessable.com. Chessable, take control of your journey towards chess mastery.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our live coverage of the quarterfinals of the Chessable Masters. What an eventful first game we just had, as Vladislav did disconnect and lost the game by forfeit. And when he came back, he was looking so terrible. But that first round was amazing, as it featured a pretty nice learning moment that Anna is going to take us through step by step of what Nepo missed. Anna.
Indeed, it was a very inspiring piece sacrifice by Jan Nepomniachtchi with knight f5 earlier on. He played rook d3 in this position in his game, after which rook a1 was a brilliant defense by Artemiev. And if it wasn't for the disconnection, the game would have ended in a draw. What was the winning move instead of rook d3 is extremely instructive and also very difficult. Queen g7 check, and if king to e6, now queen h6 check, and the knight is untouchable. If king takes f5, the winning move is, can you guys spot it? Not gonna be easy. Pawn to f3. Push him, baby, Yasser. The queen has to go, and then g4 will be a pawn checkmate, or black has to give up the queen for the pawn. And there's no way of getting out of this. For instance, if after the queen check on h6, black had gone back to f7, for instance, if we go back to that moment, white will force this position by playing queen takes h7. Now, if king let's say king f6, then queen h6, there's just no way of getting out of this position, because king f7 back, then we have queen g7 check, and king e8, queen g8 is mate, and if king to e6, queen g6 is mate. So there was absolutely no way out of the mating. That would have been a beautiful finish. Instead, unfortunately for Artemiev, it was the disconnection that decided the game in the end.
Wow, what a learning moment. Peter, 2 games, 2 victories. What a way to start the quarterfinals.
Absolutely. Very exciting first round. 2 very different games in character. Magnus winning, you want to say a kind of a typical Magnus game, getting a very pleasant edge from the opening, and then never really letting it go, and calculating cleanly and far when the position required it. Because I think if we go back to that game, in this position, we were talking about how pleasant it is, but it did not seem obvious, at least to me, that white already maybe is close to winning. But Magnus spent some time here and went for this forced sequence of taking and then playing knight e5 and queen a7. And I have a feeling he has already foreseen that after takes, queen d8 might be the only move. And then the very strong maneuver bishop e2 followed by bishop g4 just completely collapses the black setup, and pawns start falling. And indeed, Fabi soon ended up with no pawns left in the center. If you look at the final position, that structure is just clean gone. There's nothing left.
An impressive positional squeeze, to be sure, but game 2 has started. And for those of you who are joining us a little late, first of all, a hearty welcome. Tell all your friends where you're hanging out. We are in the quarterfinals, day one. The players are going to be contesting 4 rapid games, with obviously 2.5 points being the key magic number. The first player to score 2.5 or better, you could score 3 wins, the day's action is over. In case of a 2-2 tie, the players will then go into blitz mode. And if those games are still tied, we'll see an Armageddon to decide who is the victor of day one. There'll be 3 days of play, so you have to win 2 out of 3 days, these sets of match. Peter, take us away. Fabi with the white pieces, needing to bounce back.
Yeah, and the choice of the opening for the bounce back would have maybe raised some eyebrows, let's say 20 years ago. But these days, I think it's well understood that the Gioco piano is really not all that Gioco at all. And it's a very sort of universally accepted way to play for a win when you have to play for a win. A lot can be said on the topic of move orders in the Gioco piano, on the question of how black is supposed to react to a2, a4, and a2, a4 in general being very much a choice that came to prominence reasonably recently comparing to the old plans. So do you play a6 here? Do you play a5? And these types of questions are all extremely intricate, and I feel like there's a lot of people in the world who would be able to cover it a lot better than I would. So I will just say that those topics exist and try to quietly move on.
Well done on that. By the way, I've seen even black play. I think it was Alexander Grishuk.
Yeah, a6 and then a5.
A6 and then a5. I was like,
exactly. It's a very weird line where there's actually a lot of whatever black ends up doing does make sense in most cases, but it's very difficult to explain to the uninitiated, and I count myself honestly among the uninitiated on many of these topics.
Me too. I'll raise my hand and say, look, Peter, if you ever want to try to explain this one to me, I'll give you an entire month, because it is very complicated. And I do remember a very nice interview with a 5-time world champion, Viswanathan Anand, and he said, it was something like about, I'm going to say 10 years ago. He said, well, it was really crazy. We put the Gioco piano in our engines, and we discovered, much to our astonishment, that the positions were incredibly rich, and we all started playing the Gioco piano. And here we just saw, by the way, after the move bishop e6, the move bishop b5, as Fabi was reluctant to trade on e6, Peter. And why was he reluctant to not double his opponent's pawns?
It's an interesting choice. I think playing against those double pawns is very much a discussion that is front and center when people are playing the Gioco piano in particular. Like, it used to be absolutely commonplace to start with rook e8 to prepare bishop e6 to not allow the doubling. But these days, people are reasonably happy to play this position. They aim to go for some kind of knight h5, knight f4 counterplay. And actually having the pawn on a5 ends up being quite advantageous for black, because it means that white cannot gain additional space on that flank with some kind of b4 plans. But bishop b5 also exists, in particular with the pawns on a4 and a5. You have to ask yourself, how are you replying to knight a7, which is what Magnus plays instantly, and the answer normally is d3, d4.
And here I'm drawn to the idea that because the rook is on e1, Peter, I really, really want to take the bishop on b5 with the stupid knight on a7, but I don't want to trade the dark squared bishop for it. So I want to take on d4, and after c3 takes d4, I want to play bishop b4. Ha ha ha! Tempo against the rook. Now, if you block me with knight c3, then, yay, I'll take the bishop on b5. And whether it's good or bad, I'll pat myself on the back as if I've accomplished something wonderful. Is it?
Yeah,
the case?
interestingly, Magnus does take on d4, but after he takes d4, he does not play bishop b4, but instead takes on b5 here, which is a little bit of a twist. I think you're correct. I think knight b5, d takes c5, knight a7. This position very much exists in theory with the inclusion, I think, of moves knight b d2 and, or maybe with the knight on d2 and the pawn on h2. If you, instead of h3, if you play knight b d2 here, that position has been discussed. I think there are some Grisha games starting from here. There's a famous game between, I think Magnus Carlsen won this position against Wesley Saul once. cd6, queen takes d6, and b3 is how they proceed about things here. But with the pawn on h3, I haven't seen this before. But what Magnus is doing is he's saying, I want to take more pawns off the board in the center before I take on b5. And Fabi says, I'm not going to recapture. But the question you raised is very interesting because seemingly there is no reason to even allow white to take dc5.
Exactly.
And if black hasn't played bishop before, and also if Fabi is specifically aiming for this position, I suspect they both feel that after bishop b4 and maybe bishop d2 or maybe knight c3, I'm not even sure which. I think it's probably bishop d2, knight b5, ab. They feel that this is good for white, or I think otherwise Fabi wouldn't have been going for this position. And Magnus, on the other hand, would have gone for this position.
Yeah, because I'm just looking at it, Peter, and I'm thinking to myself, black's got pretty darn good development. His pieces are out, and pawn on b5 is weak to my eyes. Bishop.
Yeah, for instance,
C4.
something like bishop c4. Yeah, I'm very curious why this hasn't been played, to be honest.
Like
and
what?
also, like if they think this is good for white somehow,
yeah.
Why after knight takes b5, which is what Magnus played in the game, why didn't white play knight takes b5 here?
Exactly.
Yeah, if this is so great, is he really more worried about bishop b6 here than he is about bishop b4?
That's
very confusing.
Yeah, there's a logic glitch there somewhere. But what has happened is Magnus quickly said to his opponent, look, you can have the two bishops. You can even have the better pawn structure if you like. Let me get into an ending that I can draw. Well, wait, not so fast. Can
Yasser, no, he's back.
Magnus draw this ending? I mean, this is not a pleasant ending. Again, to the old-fashioned way, the old fogey way of thinking. Two bishops, weakness.
Well, the two bishops are gone off the board. Honestly.
Oh, sorry. What am I saying?
I will have to correct you on this.
You took my bishop on b5. Thank you about that. I'm going to keep my mouth shut, Peter.
But yeah, the pawn on d6 is somewhat weak, and I think black would very much like to play d6, d5 at the earliest possible opportunity, because otherwise it might be under a lot of pressure. But generally speaking, I think this position lends itself to mass simplifications in many cases. I think black probably isn't all that unhappy about this. I think what is likely to happen is something along the lines of, let's say, bishop f4, which is, looks like the most natural move in the world. Right. Let's say I include rook fd8. I'm not sure I need to, but let's play rook fd8 here. You go rook ad1, and I play e5, d5, and knight e4. Mm-hmm. And I think some kind of a position like this very often ends up being fine for black, because yes, you can currently take on e4 and win that pawn. Mm-hmm. But black generates so much counterplay here, let's say after rook d1 check followed by bishop d5, that I think he's not really running any serious risks at all. And if you instead decide not to take on e4 and play something like knight b5, there is a target for counterplay on a4. Like I could consider maybe even playing knight c5 here and starting to attack it straight away. Feels to me like black isn't doing all that poorly.
I will completely agree with you. And for those people who are following that nice line you were showing, that knight takes e4 variation that you just pointed out, mm-hmm. Pawn takes, rook takes, rook takes, rook take. yeah, rook takes e4, rook check. And if you were thinking, oh, I could go rook e1, well, there's more coming off, and the a4 pawn at the end of the day gets eaten as well. Easy draw there for Magnus. Okay, well, we'll see if Fabi can't make some headway out of this. At the moment, looking at him on camera, he doesn't look particularly happy about his circumstance. How is Vladislav doing? Vladislav playing against Nepo, those of you joining us late, actually, he was drawing the final position. He simply disconnected and his time ran out. So that is why Nepo is currently leading this match by 1-0. What's happening?
They have blitzed out this entire sequence, both of them playing incredibly quickly. I'm somewhat interested by the opening here. Vladislav has been playing these types of openings quite a bit, but interestingly, Jan himself has played this line with the white pieces, so he is quite intimately familiar with the intricacies of this particular variation. This position can appear from a number of openings. Of course, this can come, as it has in this game, from the c4, c5 English. It also is one of the central positions of the Panov attack in the Caro-Kann. So plenty of different move orders. And the line that Vladislav played, takes, and bishop c4, I'm curious about this because I think they mainly play queen b3 these days, first and foremost.
Right.
I think they play more queen b3 more than they play bishop c4. But also, after bishop c4, knight takes c3, I'm pretty sure the main move in this position is queen b3.
Right.
Something that Jan would know really, really well, having played this position, I think, with white quite a bit. And also his, I think, currently main coach, Grandmaster Vladimir Potkin, has contributed a great deal to the theory of this variation, played a number of very interesting games, I think maybe with both colors even. But Artemiev instead just plays b takes c3, kind of, I want to call it naive chess. I understand it's a bit stupid. It's not naive chess. It's just he believes this is the way to go here. But, you know, there's a knight to take, so why should I make any intermediate moves? I can just take the knight. But it does allow black to immediately play bishop g7 and castle without committing to any kind of e6.
Yeah, and because I've always played the Caro-Kann, and this particular line of the Panov-Bogdanich was always considered soft. That is to say, this exact position with the pawn on c3 and black's king rather safely ensconced, and, you know, there's ideas of queen c7 and getting counterplay against the c3. I never thought that this was a danger. That's why you were mentioning queen b3 and bishop c4, as white was oftentimes aspiring for more than what he gets in the game. Let's see how the game continued.
Yeah, after castles, Artemiev played very logically. Rook e1 followed by bishop g5, I think, is the most natural way to develop your pieces. But this led to a very forcing continuation from Nepomniachtchi, who played queen c7, and after h3, snapped off on f3 and took on d4. C takes d4, queen takes c4, bishop e7, and rook f e8. Black is clearly aiming to just completely equalize here by liquidating everything in the center, but so far he's not having such an easy time of it. Artemiev played rook a d1, and here, if you just look at this position without discussing concrete variations for a second, I think it should be rather obvious that if you somehow manage to get that pawn all the way to d6, somebody like me will start having, you know, very, very unpleasant flashbacks, because the amount of games I lost to Vladimir Kramnik, who's done this to me in all kinds of Grunfelds, is very painful to recall. And you really need to fight against the d5, d6 idea, which is why I'm pretty sure Jan didn't really consider, for instance, queen takes a2 for more than 3 seconds. You just cannot allow d5, d6. It's too dangerous. And he has played a move which I thought was very clever, queen c7, attacking the bishop on e7 and hoping to maybe trade off some rooks and establish a blockade. In particular, driving this bishop away from the e7 square makes the whole d5, d6 plan, while still dangerous, a lot less dangerous, I would feel. But queen a3 is a very smart reply by Vladislav. Keeping the bishop firmly on e7, and now d5 is looming very large. I still feel. How do we feel about this heavy piece endgame, Yaz, after bishop f8?
Well, whenever I'm in these heavy piece, major piece endings, we say, I'm always looking at who has the most potent pawn, and I'm looking and I'm saying, okay, it's white for choice. How big an edge? That's completely something we can argue, of course, but well, white's for choice. Black will try to blockade and say I can hold, but
yeah, I'm also I'm agreeing with you to such an extent that I'm actually seriously wondering if I'm supposed to trade more major pieces here and actually give up on a7.
whoa.
Which is an unhappy choice, but I would like to at least like entertain this thought, because if instead black takes on f8 straight away, we do allow both the immediate d5 and also maybe rook e7 followed by d5 d6 is also something that needs to be very seriously considered. I'm not sure this is fun for black at all.
No.
I really don't think this is fun. And I think Jan also agrees with us, because he's been thinking for I think close to 5 minutes now and hasn't played bishop f8 yet, or anything else for that matter.
Not a nice situation. Where did it go wrong? Because really, it feels to me that Jan played all the sensible, correct moves from bishop d4 and knight d4, but he has landed himself in a little troubled water.
Yeah, I've also been kind of asking myself that, because the entire sequence seemed very logical, but then it ended up here, and
he has played, by the way, b5.
Yeah, he's played a move I did not expect, saying yes, please play d5 if you want. But why would we? Why would that be good for black?
Some of those painful memories you mentioned, because d5, d6 is definitely on white's agenda.
Yeah, maybe he just wants to play a5, d6, queen d7 and claim that he has some counterplay on the queen side, but that's extremely risky. If you imagine, d5, a5 played, let's say d6, queen d7. Let's say if the rook from c1 lands on c7 at some point, the game just pretty much ends.
Right.
Currently, he will have some kind of before bishop c3 counterplay against it, apart from the obvious rook c1, rook c8, which is also not immediately refuted. But yeah, I don't think this is a happy choice. I don't think black ever does this, with a fist pump. But
got an a5, yeah, baby.
Yeah, like I think this is not one of those very happy positions you absolutely dream of. But maybe it's not that bad. Maybe the bishop on e7, just to touch on that, it's a very strong piece. It blocks in the trades along the e-file. It supports the passer very well. But it's also in the way of white's own play to some degree, because it makes it impossible to even plan for some kind of a rook e7 ideas. So I still like this for white, but having stared at this for a minute now, maybe Jan is correct. Maybe there is nothing you need to be panicking about just yet.
And if I try to maneuver my queen to like the g4 square, Peter, or something like queen f3 to g4,
that's that's scary. But maybe we can go rook a7 and claim that we still have things somewhat under control. I don't know. I'm worried.
I would be worried too. I'm not too sure exactly the sequence. Something like rook d5, for example, and just saying, I don't know about you, but oops, that's a b4 pawn.
Yeah.
Give me that putty tat.
Yeah.
Right. But
no, it's very awkward. Yeah, maybe we have to play bishop f8 at some point and start combining our normal play with some ideas of bishop takes e7. But I mean, this could very easily just completely blow a backfire for black. Like you Occasionally you get mated in positions like this also, if white manages to start something on the king side. It's a scary
talking
position.
about your Grunfeld experiences, huh?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just get mated. This is bad luck, Peter. Bad luck. Okay, so potential there for Vladislav to try to tie up the match. How's it going in our marquee matchup with the world champion and the world's number 2?
Well, the things we were describing sort of came to pass, and Magnus didn't even include rook d8, rook d1. He played for that pawn sacrifice straight away. Fabi
Okay.
picked that up, and he just played rook fd8 with the intention of rook d3. Fabi decided not to stop it, probably because rook e3, knight d4 also looks very awkward. So rook c1, rook d3, rook e3, rook a d8. And I think here a very major part of why this is completely fine for black, and maybe even a little bit more than fine, is the difference in activity of those two knights. Because the knight on c6 completely restricts the knight on f3. And black is more or less entirely free to go after the white king side, which is what happened. Takes, bishop b3, Magnus played rook b3, and then rook b4. And they're currently playing this endgame, which I assume should be drawn with good play from the white side, but it's once again not a lot of fun for the white player here, because before bishop d4 played, if you imagine black playing rook a2, a4, and a3, Magnus actually played b3, which surprises me a little bit. I think maybe he thinks he could be winning. I mean, winning is a bit strong, but normally you don't want to give this bishop a very, very nice safe square on
Anchor square
on c3. But I think after bishop c3, rook c4, there's all kinds of tactics which Magnus probably feels are very interesting. In particular, after like the very normal looking king f3, a4, king e3, a3 probably wins on the spot, because you cannot take the b pawn actually queens, because the bishop controls both c8, c8 and b3 from e6.
A nice pattern that is very worth remembering, everybody. When you see that anchored bishop on the c3 square with the pawn on b2, kick out the legs from under it with the move a3 and that sacrifice that Peter just showed, followed by b2, and it's promotion time. A very nice pattern there, Peter. I think we've all, in our Grandmasterly experiences, have won games precisely by that tactic. You probably more than me, since this almost looks like a Grunfeld ending that you might have.
To a degree, yeah. Normally, if one bishop survives, it's not the light squared one, but yeah, I do feel some affinity for this position. And I think quite interestingly, Fabi hasn't played bishop c3 yet. I think he also realizes now that he has now, but I'm very interested to see how he's going to deal with this. Also, Magnus maybe could even go rook a2, but I like rook c4 better. If you play rook a1, you're still faced with the same problem after a4. Exactly. I'm now threatening to take and then play b2 and then to play a3, and maybe both of them will queen. Hang on. I think I figured it out. We do have the move bishop d2 here.
Okay, and by the way, very important move, I would say, because otherwise, as you've been seeing, black is really turning the screws there on white's position.
Absolutely. And also it's worth noting that you have to do it now, because once again, if we burn a tempo here, after bishop d2, black will win with a3.
A nice pawn break.
Because yes, you do trade the rooks, but unfortunately for you, either ba, b2, or something like bishop c3, a2, both are completely lost. And Magnus does end up playing rook a2 instead.
Mm-hmm.
So the plan now is just to push a4, a3, and
does
create
this
a passer
give
this way.
Fabi the time he needs to activate his rook, Peter?
Sort of, yes, but also, unfortunately for white, if you do this, which is very, very logical, you still cannot stop a3, because rook a8 runs into the long diagonal check.
Gotcha.
But I think a bigger issue for black here is that after rook d1, a4, we could probably just play something like king g3, a3, rook d2, and claim that this setup is probably very, very difficult to shake. We're not, obviously we cannot take ba, like after king h7, ba loses on the spot because the b pawn wins. But we can play something like a4 and just wait more or less indefinitely for black to eventually capture on b2. Then we take with the bishop and we claim this kind of a blockade is... Black needs more pieces basically to attack. If this were a 4-rook position, maybe black would have had some chances, but with only this material left on the board, this doesn't look like a very difficult draw for white.
Yeah, that looks rock solid to be sure. Well, a difficult start to this day one for Fabiano, as he's definitely been put on the back foot in this game. If he does manage to draw it, he'll be trailing in the match 1.5-half, and he'll thank his lucky stars not to be trailing 2-0. How is Vladislav doing? Is he getting any closer to tightening, making the match even, Peter?
Well, I'm sure he's still better, but it feels to me that this has been like I suspect black is breathing a little bit easier here. The bishop on e7 has been traded off without allowing rook e7, without allowing any kind of a concessions either in the center or on the king side. And it's go on.
Yeah, I was about to say, well, let's find out what our audience thinks as we'll switch over to Anna to share with us. Anna.
Obviously, Artemyev's loss in the previous games. So before I head over to the responses we have received, I do want to address that he did not lose because of the disconnection. Disconnection doesn't mean a loss, but the players need to reconnect within the time they have. And if you lose on time, that is a loss in chess, obviously. Now, I've seen a couple of comments in the live chat how this is unfair. The regulations are the regulations, and it is the same for each and every player. Artemyev didn't complain because he knows that this applies to him just as it applies to every single other participant. I think we all know that in online competitions, it is something that can happen, but it is the players who need to make sure that they have stable internet connection. As much as you may think it's fair or unfair, these are how internet competitions are. And I don't see the comments about how good it is in terms of it's a $1 million Magnus Carlsen chess tour that is an online competition now for so many of these professional players who cannot compete at over-the-board events. So can we also please reflect on how in the midst of a pandemic, we have an online chess tour with a lot of prize fund at stake that gives a living to all of these chess players. So please, chat, also reflect on the bright side of the online era, and internet connection has always been part of the game, but it's not the disconnection. It is the player who needs to reconnect and finish the game in time. Now on to the question of the day, which is, if we could bring up our slide again, what makes chess? Can we please bring up this slide though, because I can't remember it fully. What makes chess such a rich pastime and sport? And some of the responses include Martin Closo saying the boundless creativity within a very small playing boundary, just 64 squares, but so many ideas. And another response I really liked on Twitter is from O Sulfianista saying, of course, chess has a rich culture, but more than that, chess is a universal language that once you learn it well, enough you understand that is an expression of art, science, joy, drama, and even humor. So you would better #study chess. Thank you for your tweets, and a big shout out to all of you tuning in on YouTube, Twitch, and Chess24. Earlier on, we were the number 6 stream on Twitch solely, number 6 in any category overall on Twitch. That's hugely thanks to you guys for tuning in for today's Carlsen versus Caruana and Artemyev versus Nepomniachtchi quarterfinals. Now back to the action.
Well, thank you, Anna, for that. Indeed, it is a good reminder to say how grateful we are to both Chessable and Chess24 for their partnership and are able to bring us this top quality, top-notch action. And yes, we are going to have technology challenges. And yes, there will be mouse slips and even disconnections. We do our best to minimize it, but hey, sometimes sport is sport and mistakes happen, and that makes it interesting. Peter, I'm looking at the Vladislav's last move, which I
like it.
rather
I like it a lot. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
it's a visual, right?
Yeah, it's a very interesting move because it combines a number of ideas. First and foremost, like perhaps the easiest to understand here is the simple idea of picking up the pawn on b5 and playing an endgame with an extra pawn, which is a problem. But also, if black takes on e5, there is now a threat of mate in 1. And after king g8, I think the point is you can play rook e1 here and create a very strong threat of queen f6 followed by rook f7. Such a strong threat that even rook d8 doesn't stop it because of a rather familiar tactic of queen f6, queen takes d6, and now rook e8 check, forcing the rook to get distracted, and we pick up the queen on d6.
Beautiful.
And generally, if black plays rook d8, I think the rook d1 is going to be a reply here as well.
With the same idea of rook
e7, and yeah, I think Jan has been tanking here for quite a bit, and I think it's sort of very easy to see why, because it looked like maybe the worst was over for him. At least that was my initial impression somewhere around here. But rook e5 has shaken that belief quite a bit. It's a very strong move, I think.
Very nice, very sharp move indeed. Rook e5. It looks visually very impressive. Has Fabi created a fortress for himself, Peter?
Magnus found a very interesting approach there. First of all, I think it's very important that Fabi, in this position, there was already here, I think, an option to play f4.
Right.
Which he chose not to avail himself of. He played king f3 instead, and also king g3 instead of king f3. Honestly, looked a little bit more natural to me. And Magnus, more or less instantly, used that to play g7, g5, and to force white to break apart his own structure with king e3 and f4. And then Magnus pushed to h5. But the really turning point of the game for me was, I think, that idea in this position. My original thought here was this is just a draw, because if you take on h4, this is a very easy draw because you never make any progress.
Right.
One extra pawn is pretty much always not enough to convert into a full point. And how do you ever shift white from this setup? But Magnus found a way. He played king g4, h5, king g3, rook h1, king g2. Actually running the rook away from the h-file. There's just not enough squares on the h-file for the rook to stay there.
That's
after it left, the h5 pawn got picked up.
Wow.
And now we have a position like this, which I still suspect is probably closer to a draw than it is to a black victory, but it's awkward.
No question about it. And Magnus, very, very happy. We know he loves to grind his opponent down. Just the smallest advantages that you give to him, he tends to convert them. This, you know, I mean, I was about to say, if black's king were on a reasonable square, f5, or
I think it might not even be a draw.
Gone. But
yeah, I think it might not even be a draw.
Even that might be a draw, you think?
No, I think it might not be a draw at all.
Exactly.
Even, let's say, against the computer.
Yeah, but just the fact that the king is on h3 makes black's task still awkward. But if Magnus were to win this game, it would give him a 2-0 lead to start.
Yeah, it would feel like the first set is just gone for Fabi, because Magnus also would have the white pieces in game 3 and only needed a draw to put that set to bed. And you would think he is a huge favorite to do that. Bishop e3 played by Fabi, still trying to preserve the cut on on the G file. And in our second game, rook e1 has been played, and I think I figured out what Jan is planning here. I think it might really be the only move that doesn't lose. I think you're really supposed to play queen e6 here.
Okay.
It's a difficult decision to accept because it doesn't look very attractive to start sacrificing pawns here.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that endgame after takes, and perhaps rook c1, rook d1 should be okay. Well, and by like for a given value of okay, but sort of okay.
But it's sort of like the point that you're making is queen e6, whether you like it or not.
It might be the only choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I briefly wondered if he can play rook c6, but the answer is quite simply no.
An emphatic
because
no.
Because queen e8 queens the d pawn on the spot. So
right.
I think he might have to. I just don't see any other options. I mean, you can play queen d8 here, but I have a feeling if you do this and you allow queen f4, rook c4, maybe you still have this option, but it looks horrible. Queen d5 maybe followed by rook e7. It just looks
we
horrible.
have queen e6 on the board by Jan, as he has indeed sacrificed a pawn to get himself what he hopes will be a drawn rook and pawn endgame. An excellent practical decision, I have to say, Peter.
Yeah, I think he was obliged to do that, and he wasn't happy about it. Hence, the reasonably long pause. But
the pause, yes.
But yeah, I don't think he really had any other serviceable options. And now Artemiev needs to figure out how to get the most out of this position.
Okay, so I'm thinking that if I go for this line that you had given. That's more drawn to my eyes than anything. I'm more attracted to an idea like rook e5, giving up my d pawn for both the b5.
And that's what he played. Yeah, that's what he played.
And I'm thinking if I can get 3 versus 3 on the king side and then a passer on a2, but because the button is on e6 and not f7, better practical chances than usual, Peter.
Yeah, I think so. I don't quite know if that turns the reasonably comfortably drawn 4 against 3 into a lost one, but it definitely makes the task more difficult.
Right. And so what we're talking about for everybody is imagine a move like rook c6 or rook c1 check, if you like, Peter, sure, and rook d1. And we're talking about this specific ending. It's 4 versus 3, but this past a2 pawn is usually not that worrisome when the e6 pawn is on the f7 square. The fact that the e6 pawn is kind of isolated or separated from the rest of the group, the pawn structure, this is where Peter and I are kind of hedging our bets and saying...
Also, something I wanted to get clearance from you, Yaz. Would I be right in saying that in the classical 4 against 3, if the pawn is, let's say, on f7, the best pawn for white to have is the b pawn, not the a pawn?
Correct.
Okay, I thought so, but I just don't trust myself in rook endgame.
Yeah, no, the a pawn is actually like one of the worst pawns. Well, it is the worst pawn
because it doesn't give your king enough shelter, right? That would be
precisely. That's exactly the reason. That is exactly the whole point. And we do have.
This is a fascinating. Indeed, I was just going to say it's a fascinating theoretical discussion in endgames. But we are very close to the end in the Caruana-Carlsen game. If we could go back to it.
Sure. Oh. Okay, we had a lot of things. A lot of things have changed. I mean, somehow there was 1 pass pawn and now there's 3.
Now there's 3, including 1 for white, but it feels like the very, very weak king on b1 might actually prove white's undoing. Magnus goes rook c2. Now bishop d3 is pretty much a winning threat. You have to stop bishop d3 at all costs. He plays rook c8, a move I actually blundered. This might be okay now? Question mark. King g4. Unfortunately for Fabi, though, he cannot play e6 here because he will lose after bishop takes e6, rook takes c2, and bishop f5. Once again, I can't draw arrows worth a damn.
Your arrow technique is not improved, but the rest day was still very, very much appreciated. Nice, Peter.
Fabi has played rook c6. He's also playing not entirely on increment, but on very, very low time. And yeah, Magnus will go, this is clever. After king f5, now he can play e6 because the bishop is cut off from the f5 square. And now we can take on c2, and there is no bishop f5 in the end. So
right,
maybe Fabi is still holding after this very, very smart resource. And Magnus plays bishop d3.
Oh, sorry. I was about to say, after... Wait a minute.
Hang on a second. This is maybe still winning, yeah?
I thought bishop d3 in that position, Peter.
There as well. Yeah, that's even stronger. Yeah, you're right. But I think Magnus feels that this is just winning, so
I think he doesn't need right to. As well.
Takes, and now he goes king f5, and the bishop will actually get torn apart because after bishop d4, king e4, you cannot keep the pawn on e5 alive and also stop the f-pawn queening. And I assume some kind of a position like this is not going to hold, right? Yeah, it's just a very easy win for black.
Right.
Go around that corner, play f3, and the white position collapses.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is completely winning when you win, when it's 2 versus zip.
Yeah. They need to be closer to each other for white to have drawing chances. If they were on C and E files, their position probably is a draw because the king can cover both of them, but not when they're on C and F. That's a little bit too much. Fabi goes bishop b8, but that doesn't change anything. We still play f3 here, and
exactly
the e5 pawn falls. Yeah, the assumption is this is just very easily winning for black, right? I just don't see how it wouldn't be.
Wow.
Just start along that route.
Yeah, what a disastrous start to Fabi. We at the top of the show.
Hang on a second. King f5, bishop e3, king g4, king e1. Is this? Yeah, king g3 is winning. Yeah, that's still winning. But let's say if we play king h3, king f2, this probably is still winning, but it will take some work, right? You will have to go back and forth, and eventually, I guess, the coordination falls apart. But that would still require some work.
But it's the king g3 move for black that makes his task easier, right? Yeah.
And yeah, this is the final position in the game because after king takes d3, we can play just no, not f2, of course. Sorry, f2 would be a mistake. We play c1 first. Bishop takes c1, f2, king e2, king g2, and this is a full queen.
And we do have resignation on the board by Fabiano as the world champion, takes a 2-0 match lead. We came onto the show, obviously, mentioning the World Championship match of 2018, played in London, 12 consecutive draws before Magnus won decisively in a tiebreaker, a rapid chess tiebreaker. And, of course, we mentioned the clutch chess event that recently concluded with an epic, dramatic final knockout match victory for Magnus. But as he said in that match, it could have gone either way, and they were trading blows right to the end. Trading blows is not what happened, however, today, as Fabi again has lost the first 2 games. Back over to Vladislav's game. What happened there, Peter?
Well, the endgame is progressing apace, and I've been trying to calculate if maybe a6 is somehow winning here, and then trying to play against the fact that the king will not be able to leave that. Like if we play a6, king h4, a7 here, the black king is completely restricted to those like h4 and g4 squares, at least to begin with, but I couldn't find any way to exploit it. Artemiev instead goes rook a6, which I don't know how I feel about, because why can't we just take on h4? Why isn't this a draw now?
Absolutely.
I guess he wants to take on g6, rook takes a5, and king e3.
There's some mating net in front of the back king to worry about?
Not a mating net as such, but I think he's hoping that he maybe can round up and pick up a pawn on e5 while the black king is so completely cut off from all the action.
Rook a4 is a...
Yeah, we play f3 for the time being, and
we mark time with blacks.
Yeah. I don't quite see it yet. And Jan goes for something more concrete. Okay. So what, why, how, why?
What?
I mean, Jan just gave up the pawn on e5 without even fighting for it, which is a tiny bit confusing to me, but clever. And now the what's it called? The rabid rook, yeah, the whatever.
Rabbit?
Rook e4 check, yeah. How do you I keep
Oh,
the
the
desperado.
No,
The
the mad
desperado,
rook.
yeah.
Yes,
We
the
call
mad
it
rook.
the rabid rook in Russian.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting. So the idea is Black's king is in a stalemate. The problem is that his rook can move. If Black did not possess a rook, he would be stalemated. So Black now makes an entire series of moves, all with check, to try to convince his opponent to take his rook. A very, very well-known stalemating idea, but it's always nice when you get to execute it properly on the board, Peter.
Mm-hmm. And it does look like White cannot really do anything about it, as long as there was a brief moment there where after King d6, Rook d4, King e7, you could make a mistake by giving a check from here, allowing Rook e6, and then you would have to think about things. But of course, Jan doesn't do that, and he's giving checks from the side where, and now Rook g7 check. Yeah, come on.
Oh, that's a very beautiful visual, isn't it?
Yes, nicely done. Nicely done by Jan, who preserves his +1 score. Somewhat sadly for the Artemia fans, because we have to reiterate, game one was decided eventually. Jan was winning by force at some point, but he did not find that forced win.
Mm-hmm.
And the final position in the game is just very clearly drawn, but Vladislav had a disconnection and could not reconnect in time, so as not to allow his time to run out.
And there you see our scoreboard after 2 rounds of play. We'll be taking a commercial break now, and we'll see you on the other side of the break. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you're a chess player, you have plenty of opportunities to challenge and play online against the top players participating in the Chessable Masters Super Tournament. Don't miss the opportunity to learn from the best. Check out the Chess24 shows area and tune in for banter blitzes with the likes of Magnus Carlsen, Fabiano Caruana, Alexander Krischuk, and Pentala Harikrishna. Go premium at Chess24 to challenge them and gain full access to the world's most entertaining chess platform.
Now anyone can learn and improve their chess skills with the world champion, Magnus Carlsen. The Magnus Trainer app is packed with fun mini-games and interactive training content. Playable anytime, anywhere. Get the Magnus Trainer, available in the App Store and Google Play.
time to take control of your journey towards chess mastery. Magnus Carlsen introduces Chessable, the definitive solution for studying chess. Move Trainer uses the science of spaced repetition to identify your strengths and eliminate your weaknesses. There's no need to set up a board, remember which page you're on, or keep track of all the moves you miss. Move Trainer empowers you to go from the opening to the end game with confidence. It's a seamless, effective, and fun way to study chess. Choose from one of the largest online chess libraries in the world, with hundreds of titles ranging from classic books through to our exclusive Chessable courses, including over 100 free courses. Get expert insights from International Master John Bartholomew, Grandmaster Sam Shankland, International Master Christoph Silecki, Grandmaster Simon Williams, World Champion Magnus Carlsen, and hundreds of other instructors. Get started now and join our growing community of over 100,000 chess enthusiasts at chessable.com. Chessable, take control of your journey towards chess mastery.
Hi, my name is Kamil Plichta and I am the author of the course Break the Rules, Play the Trompovsky.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our live coverage of the Chessable Masters. One of the things that we're trying to do in these broadcasts is make them a little bit more educational, and that's why each and every day we're inviting a new author, a Chessable author, to join us. We have Kamil Plichka with us. Welcome aboard, Kamil.
Welcome, everybody.
Nice. You have been working on, or you've actually completed, of course, a course on the King's Indian attack. Am I right with that?
Yes, it was my third course published for Chessable.
And how's it been going? Has it been well received?
Yeah, I think so. I got very positive feedback. Also, it's the opening. I play like half of my chess career, if I can call it like this. And yeah, I really like to play those things.
Wonderful. And of course, you've been watching the Chessable Masters. You got a chance to see the preliminaries and now join us for the first day of the quarterfinals. What's been your overall impression? What do you like the most?
I mean, I'm a very huge fan of rapid and blitz time controls. So for me, it's like the best thing, because, you know, in the classical chess, players rarely do some mistakes, but here we can also see their human side of their plays, because they're blundering, you know, they're full of nerves, and that's a great thing for me as a viewer, as a chess fan.
Well, it's a situation where we're so grateful and thankful that you're joining us, but you may be upstage, because at this moment that you've joined us, Kamil, the world champion has a 2-0 lead. And should he not lose, should he draw or win this, the third game, his match for the day would be effectively over. He would be the winner of today's set, and he will be joining us in that case. So get in all of the act, get in the act while you can, so to speak. And I want to invite Peter and Anna to join in with any questions that they may have of you. Anna, Peter.
Well, as
I want-
usual,
Sorry.
go on, Anna. Go on.
We all want to ask questions so
It's
eagerly.
not going to
but,
be easy.
I was gonna pick up on the line that you said that you really like this time control, and if I'm correct, you call yourself a Blitz addict, and one of your victims online was one of our participants, Hikaru Nakamura. Can you tell us about the game and what is it that makes Blitz so fascinating to you?
Yeah, I'm a lazy person, so in Blitz I don't have to spend too much time thinking on moves, so I can rather rely on my intuition than some calculating skills. And the game with Hikaru was pretty funny because it was like 3 a.m. at night at my place, and I just looked for a game on Chess.com, and suddenly I saw, okay, Hikaru is online, so why shouldn't I try and for the first time challenge him? Okay, he accepted. Then I lost 3 next games without any fight, and then suddenly in the game number 4, I managed to like win one of the best games in 22 moves with white, and it was like the best feeling in the world because not only I had the first chance to play against the best player, but I also managed to beat him. And also a very good thing about this game was that I managed to use the line that was for my second course. It was line from my second course, so it was a great feeling. I knew that not only I'm working for other people, but I also managed to help myself by winning the game.
Yeah, that is a very nice feeling.
That's very nice. Camille, you had a learning moment that you wanted to share with our audience as well.
Yeah, for me, the most fascinating moment from today's games was the first game between Ian Nepomniachtchi and Vladislav Artemiev. So the game where Vladislav disconnected. But I think that we can appreciate the position after move number 36 from Black, where Black just took on g5 with the opponent. I think that in this position, we should just take a look at the fact that there are 4 Black's pieces on the queen side, which are really not participating much in the defense of the king side. And that means that we should rather start looking for some attacking chances. And we have like 5 pieces attacking, Black has 1 piece defending. So it should be possible to create some breakthrough. And the move knight h to f5 is just a crushing move, because it just rips the Black king out of his defenders. And I think it is very thematic.
Yeah, I thought so too. And that's exactly the conversation we were trying to have on air, because the game was a bit too fast-paced for us to touch on this properly. But it's good that you bring this up. Sacrifice like this, with white, honestly, apart from this first check, for a while we'll probably be playing with quiet moves. It is mainly possible here, as you say, because of those bystanders on the queen side, which really aren't participating in a defense. And then there was this very, very beautiful line in the game, which Jan ended up missing, which we can show again in this position. But I think, as you said, it's important to recognize when you can start an attack like this, simply because you have an advantage on the side of the board where most of the play will be concentrated.
Yeah, sometimes it's as simple as that, as counting the pieces. But I'm sorry to interrupt this learning moment, because we've got a lot more moments to learn, as we have in the game between Magnus and Fabi, a move that has just stopped Magnus cold, g7, g5. Peter, take it away.
Yeah, that's a very interesting development, because this idea, in general, in the bishop b5 Sicilians these days, this idea is not unheard of. And I was a little bit surprised by Magnus's choice to play h3 on move 6. If we look at what happened here, Magnus gave a check. Fabi played knight c6, which is already a little bit interesting. I think most people used to believe that if you wanted to play sharply for a win in a must-win game in this position with Black, you always played knight d7 in the days of yore, so to speak. But
right.
But knight c6 is also a fighting move. Castles bishop d7, rook e1, knight f6, and there's a lot of theory in this position, starting from the move c3, for instance. And honestly, much of that theory is completely safe for white, which is why I was honestly a little bit surprised when Magnus played h3, a6, bishop f1, and g5 is a very thematic move. Even sometimes Black plays it with the pawn is on h2, but with the pawn on h3, it does feel very, very logical for Black try to play g5, g4 as early as possible and to blow the king side apart this way. And of course, knight g5, rook g8 plays into black's hands because the pawn h3 probably will be won back after something like this.
For sure. It does forcefully remind me of a game that was played in the Sinquefield Cup a few years ago between Magnus Carlsen and Veselin Topalov. It was a different line, but it was an early g5 by Veselin Topalov that definitely threw Magnus off his game. And in fact, Veselin Topalov won with the black pieces in that double-edged game that I'm referencing, and I can't remember exactly how it got to the position, but things are continuing to blow up, Peter.
Yeah, but I think Magnus here is reacting sort of in the time-honored fashion. You are always told as a child, I mean, always maybe is a bit of an overstatement, but you are told that the way to play against a flank attack is to start playing actively in the center. And Magnus does that by not picking up the pawn on g5, going d4, and meeting g4 with a very nice tactical detail of d4, d5. Saying to Fabi, if you want for me to continue thinking about hg, you first have to play some kind of an ugly move like knight b8 or knight a7 here. And if you play gf3, which is what Fabi did, I do have d takes c6, threatening c takes d7 with a check, which means fg2 is impossible because it just loses a piece. And now Magnus managed to trade some pieces off the board, open up something in the center. The bishop on c1 is now playing, and also quite importantly, his king side is completely intact, which I think is, if we consider the context of the match, king safety is of paramount importance here because everything else is quite easy, a lot easier to control.
Camille, let me get you in the conversation as well. A moment ago, you had just given this very nice impression of a justified sacrifice, that all of Black's pieces, Vladislav's pieces, were off on the queen side, and so it wasn't a surprise that Black's king got overwhelmed on the king side. In this particular moment, do you feel that Fabi's early g5 has been justified? And if so, why?
It was definitely justified from the psychological point of view. Fabi is in a must-win situation, so playing for a position like this is something that he kind of has to go for, because he has to beat Magnus in this game with the black pieces to have the chance for the Armageddon in the next game. So, but from the positional point of view, I can maybe share this, that I was working for more than 2 months now on the anti-Sicilian course, and I saw so many of those g5 ideas that it definitely doesn't surprise me at this point. And the move knight c6, I understand why Peter criticized it, but okay, Fabi has to go for something. Knight d7 is definitely the most combative move, but I'm pretty sure that Magnus also would have something prepared there. And why this move g5 works here? Because this move h3 is, okay, it restricts the black pieces, but the problem is that now the pawn on h3 is also a target, which we are going to use by playing a quick g4 and rook g8. And the fact that white has all of his pieces still in the center helps with this pawn break d4. If, for example, if the white bishop would be like on a4 and there would be no knight on f3, I think that white would be probably defenseless in this position. But here, having the 2 pieces on the king side helps with the defense.
All right, very, very nice. And in the current position, for me, it's a little bit of a surprise that Fabi is going into a kind of a tank. To my eyes, White's moves weren't that unexpected. And now that the G file at least is half open, I would think a move like rook g8 is automatic for 2 reasons. First of all, the half open G file, but also maybe bishop g5 itself is a little bit uncomfy. Why is Fabi thinking so long about a move like rook g8, which I think is automatic? And if rook g8 isn't your move, what would be your move with Black?
Is it a question to me?
Yes, please. Come here.
I have no idea. I would play Rook G8 in a second probably.
Exactly. Spoken like a true blitz master. Very
Yeah,
good. Very good.
I would like spend like 5 seconds on playing d5, but then e takes d5 and queen takes f6 is coming, so white is lost there, I guess. And so I would just stop counting, no matter what you take on d5 with, and you don't want to take with the knight probably. And also, if not e takes d5, there is e5. So
well, just on that moment too, because you kind of think to yourself, if you play d5 and you go e d5, queen takes d5, queen takes f6, you slap yourself in the forehead and say, why isn't my rook on g8?
exactly.
But he hasn't even done it. He has not played rook g8. He played knight d7. Peter, jump right back in. Explain what's going on. We're confused.
I think he's come to the realization that knight d7 and d6 are the two moves he needs more, at least in the early stages here, than rook g8. So I have a feeling, I mean, he's not castling kingside here. We know that much. Mm-hmm. So I expect the rook to appear on g8 at some point. But I think it's a question of which of the moves you will probably end up making anyway needs to be made first. And he somehow, I think starting with e6 is, you don't even want to calculate bishop g5, even though I don't quite see what's wrong with bishop e7 and rook g8 next move even here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm a little bit surprised. I'm not necessarily shocked, but rook g8 is extremely natural here. I don't quite know what Fabi disliked about it. I don't disagree with the setup of knight d7 and d6, but yeah, for instance, one change is precisely what Magnus has done. White can play queen g3, and now you might actually struggle to get your rook g8 in.
Exactly.
Which would be unfortunate.
Yeah, and in the meanwhile, the move queen g3, if the move knight d7 was designed to play knight e5 and maybe pick up a tempo against the queen, the move queen g3 is a really wonderful reaction. You stop rook g8, you get out of the potential tempo, and by the way, excuse me, may I introduce bishop f4, and there's a certain weakness on d6 I'd like to discuss. So I think Fabi's getting himself into a bit of a tangle.
Yeah, he played queen e7, but now after bishop f4, I guess he wants to castle queenside, but after rook a d1,
I'm sorry, Peter. Just a tactic, which I'm sure.
Yeah. I wanted to interrupt here.
Ivan is hanging though, right? So we can go in this order.
Yes.
Yeah, and then bishop g5.
Yes. I think we can even start with bishop g5. It's also working.
That is true. And queen e7. This is actually on the board, so Magnus will have that option.
Yes, but that.
Hang on a second. F6. Knight d5. Knight e5.
Yeah. Okay,
are we sure about this?
No, but I
F4
on E1 and I got myself all excited, Peter.
Isn't F4?
Yeah, F4 probably works. We can also do this.
Take on B7. Take on E5.
No, I mean, queen takes B7 is not going to happen because specifically, as Yasser said, rook E5 probably wins on the spot here because
right.
The rook on h8 falls.
Yeah,
Magnus already played 95. Magnus is enjoying himself here.
Exactly. And this rook on e1, you always, I mean, this is Kramnik's move, right? Rook e1. You always have these kinds of breakout moves. Knight d5. Michael Tal especially was happy playing knight f5 and knight d5 against open Sicilians. This looks like Fabi has mistimed. Maybe he's just missed it, Peter.
Yeah, it feels like perhaps. I mean, I understand that it will sound. I don't intend it to sound disparaging or anything, but I think it's very difficult to imagine him being happy with how the set is going.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this may have influenced his play a little bit here because normally I don't think the position after queen takes f3 logically results in the position after knight d5. I think something else should have been on the board by this point. I have a feeling we might have a guest on our show reasonably soon.
Actually, in this position, does black has any choice? I mean,
well, he's taken with the bishop and played e5, but
yeah,
now
that's
after
what I
bishop
meant,
d3,
bishop
but now after
D3
bishop
and-
d3, he's more or less. I think like white is maybe even winning,
Right.
strictly speaking, because this bishop goes to f5, and then black is just so completely tied up everywhere, and eventually some kind of b4 happens, and everything gets opened up, and your position collapses.
When you see a bishop like that on f5, Peter, you think to yourself, why, oh, why don't I have a pawn on g6? I mean, please give me a pawn to put on g6. Okay, this is an opening disaster for Fabi, which is very rare considering what a great opening specialist he is. It's just, the wheels have come off in this set.
Mm-hmm. And we have been sort of not even talking about the fact that the second game is in progress, but Vladislav Artemiev he has a very playable position here with black, but maybe not as good as I originally thought. At some point, it looked to me like black might just be like much better, but I don't know if I think that anymore.
You're tempering your enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, what got you enthusiastic, and why are you tempering it now?
I quite like knight b3. I think white might have enough time to trade some pieces, maybe establish the second bishop on e3, and then his position won't look all that poor. I'm interested by the opening in that game because Artemiev played the Sicilian with 2a6, which is, I mean, it's been around for a while. It's been known that it's possible to play like this, but it's not supposed to be great, specifically because of the two moves with the c pawn. Both c3 and c4 actually are supposed to be quite good here. And Jan did play c3, d5, e5, queen d5, d4, knight f6. And we sort of have the absolutely classical Alapian here with an extra tempo for white, or at least like half a tempo, because a6 is
not so useful. Maybe.
It's not a poor move, but it's not very useful either.
Mm-hmm.
But Jan played the move c3, c4 here, which I think is a little bit hasty. I don't think he needed to do that. Something normal like bishop e3 or bishop e2 was, I think, a better option. And
even
after
those Lapin endings where you take on c5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that also is very much a topic. I don't know. Yeah, that's a very good spot actually, because with the knight on c6 in this position, there is this very, very sharp line with queen d1 and then bishop g4, but not a tempo down, of course. and after queen c5, bishop e3, white does have a very pleasant game, as is well known, I think, from the main lines. But he played c4, and then after queen e4 check, I think he probably realized here that his intended move bishop e3 runs into knight g4, and life becomes a little bit less clear than he would ideally want.
Mm-hmm.
So he ended up playing bishop e2, c takes d4, and queen takes d4. And black took, and played e5. And this is already like an absolute dream position for black. His pieces are being developed very naturally. The fact that he had to play a7, a6 here actually stops knight b5, which is hugely important. And this endgame, as I mentioned, looked mightily attractive for black. Might still be quite good, but knight b3 is a clever move. Artemiev played bishop e6, takes b3. I guess he wants to go rook d3 here, but feels like white consolidated.
Just to inform everybody, you've caught up with the players, and indeed b2, b3 is the live position. Yeah, it seems like definitely Nepo misplayed things a bit in that sequence between move 6 and 10, let's say, but somehow he still landed on his feet.
He's still playing the white pieces, right? So he has more leeway than he normally would. I think that would be a fair way to describe it.
Right. But it still comes down to a question: can black, continue to seize his momentary development plus with a move like bishop b4, Peter?
Bishop b4, perhaps rook d3. I'm more looking at rook d3 because I think bishop b4, you're giving me time to maybe play knight e2 with a tempo.
A similar idea. You're getting a tempo back.
Yeah, and the difference is he's played rook d3, and here after knight e2, you have to at least count bishop g4.
Okay.
And this might be legitimately awkward for white because rook takes d1 is a threat which is surprisingly difficult to meet in this position. And if you cannot play knight e2, then your position might actually still be a little bit awkward, because the knight does not have very attractive squares, and bishop b2 is sort of not where you want to develop that piece in general. Now black can play bishop c5, for instance, and just claim that he has a very harmonious development, and the rook will go to d2 if it's chased, and just a very nice position for black.
Yeah, just trying to work out the tactics that might occur after knight a4 there. But he is thinking over what to do about how he's going to handle this knight e2, bishop g4. That looked very attractive to my eyes for black. So can we essay knight a4 in this specific position, Peter?
Yeah, we can. I was kind of loath to
Me too. Me too. I did it reluctantly.
But as I realize now, I was very worried about b5, if I'm honest. But I think we can play knight b2 here and not be so sad, because we might be able to finally put the bishop on e3, which is a little bit of a dream here for white. Like rook goes away, maybe we play something like cb5, ab5, bishop b2.
Yeah, here you've lifted your kimono a bit on the black king.
It does feel like white is finally his pieces start making some sense, and maybe all is not that gloomy. In the meantime, in our Carlsen Caruana game, Magnus is just a healthy pawn up.
In knight a4 was played as we leave to take a look. What happened? How did we get to this position?
Magnus decided not even to waste any time on the bishop d3 f5 maneuvers and played b4 straight away. Takes rook b1, a5, a3. Fabi played a5, ab, a4. It does feel to me like white probably is just winning here somewhere. If he wants to. In particular, I was looking after bishop b5, bishop g7. I was looking at the move queen g5. But maybe queen f7 is okay, because I was very fascinated by the position after takes, where these bishops kind of take away all the squares from the black setup. But I mean, it's not necessary. And Magnus instead just picked up the a pawn for not very much. And what we have on the board right now is this position. And I think Fabi also missed queen g5, honestly, it feels to me. And now you probably start thinking maybe it's time to conserve some energy and move on to the next one, because there's just no way to defend the pawn on f5 comfortably or uncomfortably. I think it just falls, honestly. And if the f5 pawn falls, you really have nothing at all to show for the two pawns you've lost.
Well, in a kind of weird way, and obviously from the very get-go, we were referencing the London 2018 World Championship match between these two players. And it really does have the motifs of a Sveshnikov to the position. But in this case, the players have reversed colors, and it's like Magnus playing the white side.
Hang on a second. What's happening here? What's the queen b6? Queen b6, rook a2 or something, yeah?
Whoa. F2 is hanging.
He goes rook b7, king h2, queen f2, king h2.
And there's a mate on g7.
Yeah, he is just he trusts his calculations, and I guess he is correct here. Even though normally you don't want to give your opponent an opportunity to give checks like this. It feels a bit awkward, but
there is also rook c7 in the end, I think.
Rook c7, Camille?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, I think this is the only move. Not to lose on the spot.
Takes, and we go just rook d1, I guess. But then some kind of e4 bishop e5. If that happens, things could go quite spectacularly wrong for white here. Are we missing something after queen b6? I mean, maybe he just goes rook a2, honestly. Maybe he doesn't want to do any of that. Maybe he just goes rook a2. Whoa, Fabi didn't play queen b6. We're all missing. Okay, queen b6. No. I am very confused by this. Why would you not play queen b6? Instead, he traded queens and played rook takes c4. And now white can play. I thought bishop e6 probably is the cleanest solution.
Right. I thought bishop e6 was the very reason we can't approach this line.
Exactly. I don't quite understand this. And now after rook d4, we take on d5, we take on b7. Once in a blue moon, black doesn't lose this position, but black never ever wins it.
Terrible, terrible position. He's got it, by the way, and rook d3 on the board as Fabi scrambles to stay in the game. But again, we're talking about a situation where to win this set, all Magnus needs to do is avoid losing.
Yeah, now rook a1, rook a7, for instance, seems like it ends the game on the spot if we want, or well,
it sure does.
Yeah, it's a strange decision by Fabiano, because I suspect queen b6 loses somehow, but you still have to ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
At least there you can see how things could go wrong for white.
I mean, what if after queen b6 we play bishop e3, knight e3, and then rook b7?
Okay. Yeah.
Camille
worked it out. Yeah, I thought we were missing something simple.
Because we were both confused. I did not see that. That's a very nice sequence indeed. Bishop e3 first, and then take on b7. Of course.
Yeah, and that actually wins on the spot, because black's own knight is in the way of counterplay against the f2 pawn. The queen is hanging, mate in one is hanging. Yeah, Camille is good.
Spot on.
Yeah, spot on here. And yeah, in the end game, Magnus even played b5 here, using the fact that the back rank issues allow him to do that. And as I mentioned, occasionally black will not lose this position because he does have a very nice central pair, and the b pawn isn't really queening just yet. But sadly for Fabi, he has to play it sharply for a win somehow, and that's I think going to present a problem.
I just found one way how to lose with white here. I wanted to go rook f5, e4, rook takes e4, but now I see rook c1. That would
but
not
that
ideal.
probably ends up not happening.
I guess I guess they will not play this.
Yeah.
But I liked your rook f5, e4, rook b1. I think a lot of players would kind of get behind that as a choice, Camille. I mean, rook's behind. Oh gosh, the rook d3. No. I mean, this might be just winning. We do have e5, e4, and b7, b6 without the bishop trade on the board, guys.
Yeah, Magnus just says, I have a plan. I need to push this pawn further down.
Baby,
yeah, further down the road. If bishop c3, which seemingly solves the back rank issues, and now the bishop is hanging, I think rook c7 is the intention here. Quite cleverly protecting everything, and black doesn't really have very much in a way of counterplay, and if Magnus needed to win this game, there would still be some conversational topics for us to engage with, but because of the match situation, this feels like a bit of a foregone conclusion.
I mean, Magnus used an expression the other day, skin in the game. He doesn't have that much skin in this particular game. Do you have that in Russian as well, Peter, skin in the game? By the way, we did see rook c3, rook g7. With
rook takes g7, and now we are playing a rook endgame, which is objectively probably even difficult to draw for black. But white is just doing very, very well. There are analogs. I don't think skin in the game as a literal expression exists in Russian, but the concept is not unknown.
And in Camille, in Polish?
But I don't fully get what does it mean, skin in the game. Can you just translate it?
It means you are invested in the outcome. It means that you care, basically, because you have something running. You have. Yasser probably.
You usually. Yeah, I know, but I don't recall anything like this.
The idea is kind of like there's a wager going on. Maybe you're watching blackjack. And you're told, "Come on, let's go," and you go, "Wait a minute, I got some skin in the game," because you've also made a wager on the player who's actually playing that particular hand of blackjack. So skin in the game.
If we have something like this in Polish, then I'm not recalling it at the moment.
Okay. By the way, for Magnus fans, it's a very good day at the office. He's definitely on the superior side. Maybe he's winning he doesn't need it. 2.5 is enough. Again, these are like sets of matches, whether you win them 3-0 or you win them 2.5, 1.5. The outcome is the same. A victory is a victory. And today it looks like a victorious day for Magnus. They will not have to play a fourth game. Let's therefore turn our attention back to the other match, Peter.
Absolutely, and yeah, this is the current position. And Artemiev found a very, very interesting reply there. After knight a4, he played b5, and I'm beginning to wonder if maybe white was supposed to take on b5 first. But I understand why Jan didn't want to do that. For instance, in this position, rook d5 would suddenly become a move protecting the pawn on b5. But after knight b2, Artemiev found the move b takes c4, which we kind of ignored, and this is a very positive change for black, because knight d3, cd3 doesn't really appeal very much, and therefore Jan was obliged to create this pawn on c4, which I think black will find it very comfortable to play against. And there's also this very beautiful square for the bishop on c5. But Jan is so far holding on. He's played bishop c2, rook c3, bishop b3, creating the idea of perhaps bishop b2, bishop takes f6 in some positions. And Vladislav, after some thought, went back to d3 and then went back all the way to d7.
All right. I'll just interrupt you, Peter, for a moment, just to inform everybody that we do have, in fact, a draw in the game of Magnus versus Fabi. So we will expect that in the very near future, Magnus will join us, which means that to our social media, get your questions for Magnus ready and use Anna as your conduit. Anna, what's going on social media?
Thank you for the reminder. Yes, sir. Indeed, use the hashtag #StudyChess if you would like to send a question to Magnus. We will choose one or two from the audience to ask those questions from you guys to the world champion, who has had a great day in the office today. Our question of the day, apart from the questions to Magnus, has been the following, if we could bring it up again. What makes chess such a rich pastime and sport? I really enjoy reading through your answers. This one is from SMS HK saying, it is incredible to think that probably over 1 billion chess games have been played, but still almost every one of them is completely unique. There are endless possibilities. Hashtag study chess. The next response is from none other than the winner of Group B at the Chessable Masters, Anish Giri, responding to the same question, that chess personalities like GM Hikaru and Vidit Chess, tagging both of his friends on Twitter. Friends or frenemies, we will see. We will see in the next stage of the tournament. And on that note, I want to remind everybody that even though Anish is not playing today in the Chessable Masters, he will be taking challenges on Chess24 in his Banter Blitz, and he included this on his Instagram story. I'm going to try to read that out. Propose le challenge, je accepte, and reply to your équate with A6. I think he wants to plug his French defense course again that he will soon be publishing on Chessable. But today, indeed, the Banter Blitz show at 8 p.m. Central European Time is by the one and only Anish Giri. Make sure to tune in. Premium members will have a chance to play against the Group B winner. And on that note, I also want to thank all of you who are making fan art for the event. This one by Will Morsch with the 8 remaining participants. And we have another one about the broadcast. Thank you so much to Shazzy for this lovely doodle. Back to the action, since things are heating up and the world champion will be joining us. So use the hashtag StudyChess to send questions to Magnus.
Thank you, Anna, for that. We are not joined by the one and only Anish Giri, but we are, in fact, being joined by the one and only Magnus Carlsen. Magnus, thank you for joining us. Congratulations. Nice day today?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty good. So just gotta keep it up, because last tournament this happened as well, and then kind of messed it up later. So
well, things went your way from the get-go. Game one, in fact, and Peter will bring that up on the board. a smooth Carlsbad, if you will. Magnus, take us through where you felt Fabi went wrong.
To be fair, I think he messed up pretty early, because already when I managed to go a5 b5, basically he cannot prevent a6 later on, and with so many minor pieces on the board, including him not being able to exchange one bishop or even one knight, I think it's extremely unpleasant for him. And in the game, obviously he could have defended better, but I mean the position is just a dream to play for white.
And in game 2, it was like you got a nice little something, and you converted a bishops of opposite color, where, you know, I think a lot of people would have said, oh, Fabi, the number 2 player in the world, could draw that ending. What was his fatal mistake in that game?
Well, as you know, it's kind of a tricky situation when you're down in the match with white in the second game and you get such a depressing position. It's not easy. But I have to say I was extremely lucky in that game, because when I played knight b5 and around move 12 or whatever.
Move 12, okay.
Yeah.
We'll draw it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a mouse slip. I just clicked on the bishop by mistake and took it. So that was just insane. And like, you're pretty lucky to make a mouse slip that doesn't actually ruin much at all. So I mean, my first instinct was that I just made a mouse slip. Now my position kind of sucks, but I think pretty quickly I got decent counterplay, and obviously then at some point you should figure out how to make a draw, but then it becomes more and more difficult, and with the time edge and everything, it's not surprising that it collapses at some point. But to win after making mouse slip, that's not something that happens every day.
Well, that's for sure. I wanted to get Anna in so that she could ask you some social media questions. Today, Magnus, we've got a large audience. So again, thank you. A big shout out to our audience. Thank you all for joining us. And Anna, do you have some good questions for Magnus?
We're going to let the audience send in the questions, since we have just announced that we will be joined by Magnus. So I'm going to give the ball back for a few more minutes, but then I'm sorry, Magnus, I will need to ask you a few questions.
Nope.
For now, my question, though, is about your Instagram post today, training for today's game with your second, Peter Heine, or I mean, sorry, someone from the Houston Rockets. Can you explain?
I think it explains itself, to be fair. Yeah.
Apparently somebody counted the steps, and what you've done there is illegal. I myself.
Then again, Harden travels on every single possession, so it was only appropriate.
But it was a nice open jumper. I thought you hit it well.
I mean, I haven't played basketball in so long that my already limited game was even worse. To find a clip where I actually made a shot, even though I did something illegal beforehand, is still to be considered a victory, I would say.
Nice. Let Peter jump in, because we got all excited, Peter and I did, in game 3. We thought you were going to plan a bishop on f5 and kind of just sit on the position, but you went into a different direction. Explain your thinking, if you don't mind. Educate us a little bit on why you didn't go bishop d3 and bishop f5, Magnus.
No, I just felt I just didn't feel like it, to be honest. I mean, I really wanted to open up the game immediately, but it was a bit too casual, to be fair. But basically, I think Queen E7 obviously missed Knight D5. And yeah, I guess Bishop D3 to F5. White is just winning positionally, but I felt like playing something a bit more forcing
with B4, and you definitely were doing great.
If you could settle something for us, because that disappeared a bit too quickly for us. After knight d5, b5, bishop g5, f6, e takes, knight e5, were you intending to take on c6 or play f4?
Oh, I was actually gonna go f4, but
that was
the way you're asking the question sort of indicates that I missed something.
No, we didn't check. We didn't check. Both look extremely attractive, so.
Yeah, I think they're both pretty good. I mean, DC take b7, right, and take a6.
Yeah, and they have to play rook b8 and hope that this somehow doesn't collapse, but I don't know.
Yeah, I guess you take a6, right, and then bishop.
Yeah,
G7.
but then bishop g7. This might become unclear, actually. Yeah, the other one is probably much better. Yeah?
I mean, I thought about it very briefly, but I think once you see f4, then you sort of scrap this line and
yeah, that
you move on, right? Especially when you only need a draw.
Yeah, I think so.
No, again, it all looks very well. We have one game still going. Just take a gander at it, if you will, the position, Magnus, and give us your professional opinion.
In this one, Artemiev at some point played rook h8, e8, and White played bishop a4, which is a kind of a defining event in this game, honestly.
But what was the score?
+1 for Jan. So if Jan wins this, this also will only go 3 games today.
Yeah, that's a bit unfortunate.
We had a disconnect, Magnus.
Yeah, I read about that. That's also unfortunate. not a good day for Vlad.
No, not at all. And yeah, I suspect Black is maybe slightly better even here. Maybe not by much, but if anyone is better, it has to be Black, right? And yeah, to then play rook e8 and just give up a full exchange for pretty much nothing at all is.
Well, for you to claim that the side who does not have the bishops is better, that must mean the position is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, this bishop on c5 is just so gorgeous. Like, I don't know how to exploit it, but it's just such a beautiful piece.
Yeah, I mean, rook e8 is anyway kind of a strange move. I guess you want to put it on e6, but
yeah, somewhere like e6, c6 or something. I mean,
what was the opening in this game? Like
some kind of a
position, you don't have a clue.
a6, c3, a6, c3, and then they did something unusual.
Wow, yeah, that looks very unusual indeed.
So yeah, feels like Jan should be able to convert this reasonably comfortably because there's really not much left in the way of compensation anymore. At some point, it looked like Black could be putting up some kind of a defense, but eventually the rooks just become too powerful.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much to see here.
This looks like a pretty simple.
Yeah, he's just going to go for at some point, I think. Or maybe that's... Oh, why is that even necessary? Probably it's not necessary. I don't know. He'll figure it out.
Yeah. I don't know if it's the cleanest, but I could, you could also entertain the idea of just at some point waiting for Black to play king b7, then go rook b4, rook b6, just trade the pair of rooks, and and then the one rook just deals with the entire position very easily normally once the pair is traded.
I think rook b4, rook b6 might even be a threat because of rook f5.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to count that pawn endgame, but it might be winning.
No, I understand, but
it might be winning quite easily. Yeah. So like, yeah, he will win somehow. I think that's a pretty clear conclusion here.
We just have rook e8 on the board.
Yeah, rook e8. Obviously, that's.
And then I guess
no shenanigans needed.
Yeah. Rook g8, rook g7, and then something
bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that will be an easy day for us. Magnus, the preliminaries, my goodness, they had ourselves, our audience, on the edge of our seats. You know, very dramatic start to the tournament. How you have had a rest day, a chance to reflect on the first 4 days. What have been your thoughts?
I mean, I haven't thought too much about it. Obviously, I mean, I was not super thrilled about my pairing that resulted in me being in the by far the toughest bracket and also getting a pretty tough opponent now. But I mean, obviously, both the groups were exciting towards the very end. But yeah, certainly there are two very different brackets now. But
so I've already made that mistake. I want to finally learn what I'm covering here. Who are you two guys? Who are your semi-final opponents potentially?
so it's Nakamura or Ding.
Yeah, that is a good bracket.
Yeah.
Todd. And it doesn't get any easier for you, Magnus, as Anna has a question from the social media for you. Anna.
Yes, sir. We indeed have a couple of questions for Magnus. I've chosen the one by Pelage Badwake saying, what is the key to your consistency, Magnus, over all these tournaments?
I don't know. I feel like I haven't been consistent at all, to be honest. I've lost, it feels like, about 1 million games. And no, I would say that my top level has been great, but the floor has been the floor has been pretty low as well. So I would say that I rather need to find it. It seems that I'm generally playing quite well, but not consistently enough. So I think the question, although well meant, is it doesn't make a lot of sense.
I think your consistency to us mere human beings seems a brilliancy. But on that note too, your Twitter pal, Anish Giri, tweeted earlier he's going to be streaming Banter Blitz on Chess24 tonight, and he called the Carlsen-Caruana match his pre-show for today. Our question to you is if you plan to watch his show or even log in and challenge him.
I could. What I'm going to say though is that the pre-show was kind of a dud, so I hope the main act is gonna be better. So he has put a lot of pressure on himself now.
Actually, he said the warm-up show was even more exciting than perhaps what the main act will be. So we will see which way it goes. Thank you so much for your answers.
Before both matches were decided so early.
Definitely. Back to you, Yasser.
Well, it sure looks like to me that Jan was putting the finishing touches.
The game has just finished, yeah.
And he, in fact, has won. So our two winners of the day are now known. There will be no game 4 as both matches end in a 2.5 victories for Jan and for Magnus. Well, easy day at the office for us, Peter.
Yeah, it makes for a nice change after the 5.5 hours days of the prelims. I'm pretty sure that's not going to be a normal day at the office for the knockout phase. But today both matches were conclusively ended by game 3. You do have to feel very sorry for Vlad though, because I think the disconnect probably influenced him quite a bit.
No question about it. Well, let's get the impression from Nepo himself. Nepo, welcome to our show. Glad you could join us.
Thank you. I'm also glad I could.
I'll explain your day to our audience. What happened?
Well, first of all, I should say that I wasn't playing brilliantly or something, and this result is more or less not so. That doesn't reveal, let's say, the tension of the match. And well, actually, I was very satisfied with the first game. I would be, in case if I found Queen h6 after King e6. Sorry, after King f7, yeah, Queen g7, Queen h6, and f3. So I've calculated a lot of stuff here, like f3 and g4 immediately. And I mean, okay, I never was. Probably I should solve some more tactical positions. I mean, because okay, of course, I think the whole concept was very good from me. And well, I calculated, I think, decently that this g5 knight a5 idea. I think it should be winning because all of his pieces, like every single piece is on a queen side, queen, both rooks and both knights. So basically, his king is helpless. So all I need to do is just open some files. And okay, when then I finally had some forced victory, then okay, of course, they screwed up. And I was really disappointed. And I mean, of course, like this disconnection stuff, I don't think it's really good. So better if there is some disconnection. Maybe it's better to continue the game from the moment it was disconnected. Especially here, it should be even more painful, even probably than for Dean Liren, who disconnected actually in a dead draw position against Anish. This didn't influence, let's say, his qualification from the group, but in case it did, it would be another story, I believe. So I think this should be, I mean, okay, of course, it's a responsibility of the player, but same, let's say, same time, you cannot control anything. You are not an internet provider. You're only a player. You're only a user. So that's it. And, well, this should, of course, have it into a draw after rook e1, because, okay, Vlad found the move. And, I mean, of course, if it would be like a free, if I would have found this f3 idea, of course, I would be, like, very happy with this game. So game 2, I believe Vlad did not particularly well in the opening, and I could already play for a win. But I had some mixed feelings after the first game, so I thought, okay, I only thought for about a draw. But I actually should play queen b3, I believe, after knight c3 if you want to fight for an advantage, for something real. And then, okay, there is well-known theory with e6 and so on, very well-known theory. But after bc3, I think it's a very healthy position for black overall. And I believe after bishop g5, instead of queen c7, queen e5, and I would be just much better. Okay, maybe not much better, but he needs, like, to be precise already. Because if he plays queen g2, okay, what is this? Like, I take on f3, I double his pawns, play e6, and his position just close to a very bad one. Because those bishops make no sense here. It's a typical hanging pawns positions with some bad pawns as well. And, well, I mean, okay, when I played queen c7, of course, I miscalculated. And I felt like, okay, he has no queen e3 move, so this is just a draw by force. And, well, all right, after queen c7, queen e3, I think I took the wrong one, because, okay, bishop f8 should be more or less a draw. I mean, this bishop f8, rook e1, rook f8, queen e7, I mean, okay, this, I believe in most cases it would end up like the position in the game, but with a pawn on f7, which is obviously a draw. If you know, let's say there's some endgame basics. And, well, I mean, okay, of course white can press on, but sooner or later I think d4 pawn will be traded to b7 pawn or maybe a2 pawn, and this is just not enough for in a rook endgame or. So when we're going to a queen endgame, of course, so we want to trade rooks, and that's how I think they secure a draw. But I thought like maybe b5 is not so bad, and then, okay, I missed the trick after queen c5, queen c7, so I cannot play rook e7 because of queen a7, d7. Okay, this was like very topical, but I think this is a very strong idea from Vladislav. And then probably the lesser evil was just to go to this very suspicious position.
Yeah, I think Peter wants to catch up with you.
Yeah, I lost the thread there a little bit.
Where we got to the position with queen e6 there, Peter.
Okay, yeah.
Queen e6.
Yeah. So this
Have
was
we?
a very good practical decision because you're
It's
facing.
only one.
Yeah.
And if I do something else, people just play queen f6 and rook e7, and I cannot stop him. So queen e6 is my only chance, but I thought like maybe it's enough basically. So if this endgame is, I mean, of course it's very suspicious, this rook endgame, but I thought like might be it is closer to a draw. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so that was a kind of a good judgment call because you got into this position.
Actually, by the way, I think I could also play queen d8 instead of queen e6, but I think sooner or later I will collapse because I cannot just protect as good as a computer all the time.
I thought queen d5, for instance, is very annoying.
Queen d5 and rook e7. Okay, then it's just nonsense. Yeah, really nonsense. Yeah. So okay, queen e6 is basically on the move. And okay, for my luck, I think he cannot really prevent me from doing this because if he plays something else, I just play rook e8. I mean, instead of rook e1, I just play rook e8 and rook e6, no matter what he does. And this is already not that bad because I took on d6 with the right piece at the right moment, and there is never some mating ideas and so on. And this is probably, if he doesn't go for this is, I would even say that this could be closer to a draw as well. But I think what he did was very, very, very correct, a very, very fine idea from the beginning to the end. But the problem that this rook endgame, I think it should be winnable somehow because the pawn on e6 is weak.
Exactly. That was what.
I mean, I'm not particularly sure. So at some point when I played h5 and d5, I thought that maybe that I'm already all right because I have a clean idea what to do. He has a weakness. I didn't really see the moment I was losing by force. So this normally means two things. So maybe I'm very bad, or another option is I wasn't losing by force.
What happened in game 3? That was very confusing.
Okay, in game 3, I don't know. He blundered. Once again, I have nothing to be proud of because, well, I mean, 15 years ago, I would just refute this line immediately, I think. Because I was an open player myself, and of course I studied this a6 idea, a6, d5, and then particularly knight f6, but queen d5 is just a lap in a tempi down, which is not clever. And I think like we should go for, if he plays c4, I think we should sacrifice on g2 under some circumstances. But I mean, in general, the best thing I can do right now is to open database and to see how is white achieving something here, because clearly it's not the way to play on. And later on, I thought that maybe I should have just played knight c3 to transpose to regular Poulsen, and doesn't get into all this sort of trouble. So okay, I played c4. I felt brave myself right now, and here, okay, I didn't feel myself brave anymore. So I thought like, okay, bishop e3 is the move, but it's just very complex. Knight g4, queen d2, knight e3 takes, I think cd4, knight d4. And again, knight c3 is coming, and after queen e5, he has something like a good setup. But it's very difficult to say what is this, because okay, sometimes you get similar position from the Alapin, but I'm not sure that this one is particularly good, because if he doesn't blunder the mate on d8, he's just fine. So knight c3, castles queenside, and knight f5 is my only sound idea. But if he doesn't blunder this, okay, then that's not so clear what I'm going to do. Yeah, this one perhaps. So this is like very, very unclear. And I felt like, I mean, okay, in general, it's easier to play for black here because, well, I'm not going to mate him for sure. And if so, he has like some very healthy play, like knight d7, knight f6, or b5 immediately, just open up some files for the bishops and for the rooks. So I felt like, okay, I'll better take this equal position than play like a Panzer and lose. And another option was to play bishop e2 and then sacrifice g2 pawn, which was, let's say, 10 times more logical. Then bishop e3. No, I think knight d2 is maybe more precise. At first, knight b to d2. This probably makes him play queen g6 if he wants to, let's say, survive the opening. And here I have a choice like, okay, castle is clearly bad due to d3. But yeah, I think I should try g3 on myself. So if he plays d3, maybe bishop f1 is not so stupid after all. I just win this pawn back, and I win some tempi. But another move was knight h4 here for sure. Knight h4, but here he plays queen g5. And this was like very tricky for me because I thought like maybe after g3 I'm getting better, because after g3 I have like some knight b3 idea and his queen is really suffering some hard times. But after g3 I think he just goes for queen a5. And I kind of say my progress is obvious. Yeah, so my knight is on h4, my structure is weakened, and probably I'm not going to win d4 pawn back. So that's why instead of knight h4, I think you should go for knight e5. and play like a real man. But this was like very unclear to me if I'm going to get any compensation for the pawn. Likely not. Because, okay, there I'm already giving up 2 pawns or something. I mean, okay, maybe there is some forced line, but I'm probably too bad at the opening stage. So I don't know the correct way to play.
Yeah, and moving kind of swiftly on, before he played rook e8, let's say somewhere here, did you think you were maybe slightly worse, or you're already
No,
fine?
I think it's like, imagine we play some Berlin endgame with a good king. That's particular. I think that's the case. So you have just 2 bishops, and well, the only idea you should care about is e3, and so on. Like if he plays e3, if he protects f7 pawn, and then maybe like okay, c pawn becomes a weakness. But I don't believe in some kind of activity here. So probably rook c3, bishop b3, and here some another move, but rook d3. But I think after rook d7, he can never be better. And also kudos to Vladislav for finding this bc4, because I felt like his endgame is very suspicious with the pawn on e4. But I mean, of course, I blundered the only idea, so I mean, that's me. So rook d3 is a fine chance, I believe. Rook d3 is a fine chance, so knight e2 is not that good. But I think like knight b1 was the strongest one, actually. Knight b1 was just very, very smart.
Knight b1?
I think knight b1 was kind of smart, yeah, because no matter what he does, I just play bishop b2 and bishop c2 then. But maybe he has a3. Maybe this is too much. I mean, theoretically, if I just play bishop c2 and bishop d2, I get the same position, and then I play knight c3 and rook c1, and I'm fine with my bishops. But I mean, knight d1 would be too much if I lose. Like so something like bishop c5 and d3 works right now. Yeah. So okay, knight d1 is of course nonsense. So I mean, okay, it was I was like holding myself from playing some nonsense move. I'm preventing myself. But I think after h3 I'm completely fine, and it's only white who can hope for something. But of course, clearly this is much closer to a draw. Like okay, rook e8 of course was very welcomed by me, but I mean, okay, it was actually the trap. I thought like, what's the most logical move? Like rook e8, okay, but then I have bishop e4. But I could never believe he falls into such kind of cheapo. But actually, I think this position is already not so good for black, because I have some rook b1, rook e1, some very healthy play, and he can never really attack c4 pawn. So even if he like doubles his rook on the d8 file, yeah, play rook b1, rook e1. So okay, this is surely closer to a draw because he has this rook d2 idea. If I play rook e1, so I'm not really going to take a pawn, but okay, play rook b1 and bishop g5 or bishop somewhere. And I mean, okay, clearly due to my situation, I wouldn't press too hard in this position with white, because I believe okay, the opening in the first game wasn't really stressful for me. The stressful part was the level of my play. Yeah, very
Right.
Fair enough.
Really
let me just jump in for a moment and to say that we've got a lot of fans, Nepo online, and Anna has a question from one of them for you. Anna.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Indeed, there are so many questions to you. Yes, sir. I will pick 2 of them since we have limited time. Kartik91 asked on Twitch, Jan, where do you get your inspiring attacking style from? What inspires you to play this way?
I'm sorry, but did it look like I'm an attacking player? I was
Well,
like hiding onto the back rank in all those games and so on.
I think he was referring to your knight f5 piece sacrifice.
Yeah, okay, this was okay. The first game, okay. That I agree. But I mean, normally it's mostly about imagination. So if you study some games of great players, I mean, okay, let's name for example Michael Tell, and you just learn from the best, and you see how can you use your pieces, how you can attack. So that's normally works with all parts of the chess game. So when you should watch some great games from another great players, and okay, from a great players, not another great players, just from great players. And that's probably how you make your imagination more rich, I would say. Yeah, so that's how it comes. Like, and in general, I mean, I think like the position for my first game is just a general feeling. Like, I think it was Kasparov who said that if you want to start some mating attack or something, just check your opponent's pieces, like especially the queen. If the queen is very far from the king, then it's like probably the best moment to like go all out and start your attack. And in case the queen is close, it's a very good defensive piece, and so. So probably it's easy to relate to the moment when you should push.
Those were some great tips for the viewers. Thank you so much for that answer on attacking chess. And another question, this time about another esport from SSNWO. Jan, what is your battle pass level in Dota 2? And you will need to explain to me what is a battle pass, since you are a Dota 2 expert and I have no idea what he's talking about.
Okay, actually, battle pass in Dota is well, shows the level of your integration with the game. So if you play a lot, if you make a lot of daily quests and so on, or if you just donate, which is also fine, I think, which is very welcome by the battle pass creators. If you just donate, you get a higher level pass, and then you get some rewards, like some good interface, some extra sets for your favorite hero, and so on. Yeah, extra music, extra smiles, extra emotes. So my battle pass is level 1 because someone very generous just sent me a gift. But I never, I occasionally found out that, okay, I have a battle pass right now. Okay, wow, that's cool. But I didn't play any game of Dota for past 2 months or something because, I don't know, probably I was not in the mood. And okay, I know there is a lot of fun, and there are a lot of friends of my friends are playing there a lot of Dota. Still, some of them are playing professionally, but okay, I'm trying to focus on chess more.
That's understandable. So as a final note on Dota 2, because I'm really interested in this, if there's a way to compare Dota 2 strength to chess ratings, what would you say your peak rating was at Dota 2, if you could name it as chess rating?
Well, I think I was 2600, I believe, at my best, but it was not actually at Dota 2. I think it was during Dota 1 part of my career. Because then normally the funny part is that I decided to break up with all the competitive games in 2011 after we won some LAN tournament with our team, and we actually beat Navi, which was supposed to be one of the main favorites, and we earned something like $1,000 to $2,000, $2,000 for a team of 5 people, and this was not particularly, let's say, impressive. So we could barely, let's say, win back our money for the road and so on. And then, okay, I thought all right, that's not cool. And the same year, they announced the first international tournament in Dota 2, which was the first prize of $1 million for the team. So it would be some, small improvement. And perhaps if I knew earlier, maybe I would stay for some more time and try me for more time in Dota 2. But okay, I just played as an amateur, and okay, now I think I'm somewhere deep. Okay, let's say in the depths.
The super grandmaster level at the Dota is very impressive. Thank you for your answer.
Carefully
Peter,
avoiding
your opinion.
yeah, carefully avoiding the word dumpster, I see.
I don't know such a word, I'm sorry.
Well,
pardon my English.
I just want to jump in and say that it's been a very, very eventful day. Nepo, thank you so much for joining and sharing what happened today. To Camille, the same. Thank you very much, Camille, Chessable author, for joining us and sharing. And also, of course, to Magnus. It's always a great pleasure to have Magnus on the show answering questions. So a big shout out to all of you. Thank you very, very much indeed. Tomorrow will be the other pairings of these quarterfinal matches, as day 2 will go on tomorrow, the same setup, and then we'll come out back for days 3, 4, and 5. The players have to win 2 of the 3 days matches. You saw how they could do it today by winning 2.5, 1.5. And before we go, I want to get the last word in for Anna. Anna.
Thank you, Yasser, for the recap of a thrilling start to our quarterfinals. We'll be back tomorrow indeed with the other 2 pairs. But one of those players will be here tonight on Chess24. The winner of Group B, Anish Giri, is going to be taking challenges on Chess24 as a Banter Blitz session. Premium members can shoot challenge Anish, and he's ready to play 1 e6 against e4. At least that's what his Instagram story said. So remember, tonight at 8 p.m. Thank you, Jan, for joining. Thank you so much. Jan will also have his Banter Blitz session, but not today. Today it's Anish's his turn. He said the warm-up show was the Carlsen-Caruana match, and now at 8 p.m. it's Anish taking turns in terms of the premium members challenging him, as a Banter Blitz show will be at 8 p.m. Now, remember also that the other players too will be part of the Banter Blitz. You've just seen the calendar, and this beautiful visual that we are just showing on the screen is made out of Rubik's cubes. Tonight at 9 p.m. on YouTube, a live stream will attempt a Guinness record at Rubik's Cube. So do tune in, search for Rubik's Cube on YouTube at 9 p.m. Central European Time if you are curious about the Guinness World Record attempt in Rubik's Cube as well. And thank you so much to the squad who sent us these amazing portraits made out of Rubik's Cube. Peter, famous last words.
Short day, we welcome those, but a very interesting one, and there is more action coming tomorrow. Stay tuned. Tune in tomorrow, same time, same place. More top-level chess.
Thank you, Peter, for that. Yes, very creative indeed. I'm curious myself now how you get a Rubik's Cube portrait. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And as Peter said, we hope to see you tomorrow, same time, same place, same channel. Till then, good night.
If you're a chess player, you have plenty of opportunities to challenge and play online against the top players participating in the Chessable Masters Super Tournament. Don't miss the opportunity to learn from the best. Check out the Chess24 shows area and tune in for banter blitzes with the likes of Magnus Carlsen, Fabiano Caruana, Alexander Krischuk, and Pentala Harikrishna. Go premium at Chess24 to challenge them and gain full access to the world's most entertaining chess platform.
Now anyone can learn and improve their chess skills with the world champion, Magnus Carlsen. The Magnus Trainer app is packed with fun mini-games and interactive training content. Playable anytime, anywhere. Get the Magnus Trainer, available in the App Store and Google Play.
It's time to take control of your journey towards chess mastery. Magnus Carlsen introduces Chessable, the definitive solution for studying chess. Move Trainer uses the science of spaced repetition to identify your strengths and eliminate your weaknesses. There's no need to set up a board, remember which page you're on, or keep track of all the moves you miss. Move Trainer empowers you to go from the opening to the end game with confidence. It's a seamless, effective, and fun way to study chess. Choose from one of the largest online chess libraries in the world, with hundreds of titles ranging from classic books through to our exclusive Chessable courses, including over 100 free courses. Get expert insights from International Master John Bartholomew, Grandmaster Sam Shankland, International Master Christoph Sulecki, Grandmaster Simon Williams, World Champion Magnus Carlsen, and hundreds of other instructors. Get started now and join our growing community of over 100,000 chess enthusiasts at Chessable.com. Chessable, take control of your journey towards chess mastery.